Chapter 61. 60. Farewell. We chatted about all sorts of nonsense as we flew through the white space. After 20 minutes, we went through another portal and ended up in dark space. A few minutes after that, a flash of light appeared in the cockpit and Professor Paradox appeared before us. Using his powers, he put the ship in order and now Ben could return to human form. And Kevin took control of the RB3. Congratulations. You did a great job and were able to stop the egregor. And even without serious consequences. The professor said. Hearing Paradox's words, I looked at him with such a look that even the all-powerful professor was taken aback. He coughed awkwardly and looked away from me. Can you help me now? I asked indignantly. What? Oh yes, of course. The professor said and put his hand on my shoulder. Using his power of time, the professor spliced my bones together. I thought at least it wouldn't hurt. But no. My bones cracked again. This time, I was able to keep abusive language to myself, but if there was a telepath, he would definitely be amazed at my vocabulary. Well, at least it only took a few seconds and I no longer have to endure this pain. Professor removed his hand, and I stood up and stretched, and then began to stretch my arm and leg. Thank you. I said. My pleasure. You know what to do? Professor asked. Yes. Just do it faster. I don't want to endure this pain again. I said, understanding what he was getting at. What do you have in mind? Asked Ben, who, on the contrary, did not understand anything. Professor Paradox smiled and said, It's time to bring back our friends. The others didn't seem to understand, but I knew exactly what to do. Moving a little to the side so as not to hurt anyone, with a mental command, I turned into Andromed. So, I decided to name the confluence of the 5 aliens. I couldn't think of anything else, but I think it sounds very good. Andromed. Not bad. And most importantly, it fits. And perfectly tells the essence of these aliens. After the transformation, before the pressure came down on my mind shields, the professor placed his hand on my chest. I don't know exactly what he did, but I felt Andromed's powers decrease by about half. The approaching pressure disappeared completely, and now I felt free and even excellent. I didn't understand it before, but in the form of this alien, I felt just awful. And this is before the pressure on the shields. And now, I finally feel that this alien has become mine. Completely under my control. Just like any other alien from the Omnitrix. While I felt bliss, the professor continued to work. A minute later, 5 aliens appeared next to my feet. These were Pander, Raad, Andreas, Galapagos, and Bivalven. They lay unconscious, but were alive. This could be seen from their uniform breathing. Although, not everyone could see that they were breathing. But don't care. Stopping enjoying the sensations, I helped Ben get all the aliens into a comfortable position. What about them? Ben asked when we were done. They will be all right. They are completely exhausted. But they will wake up in a few days and be able to return home, Professor said with a smile. Why does Lex still look like this? Gwen asked, a little nervous, as this appearance brings back bad memories. It's because of the Omnitrix. I could not take all the energy, only half. Professor said. But are you all right? Kevin asked me. Yes, I'm fine. There is no more pressure and I can use this alien just like any other. I said in a rough voice. After that, I turned back into a human and looked at my Omnitrix, activated it. Scrolling the dial, I came to the silhouette of Andromed. Now, about 20 more aliens have become available to me. But I'll deal with them later. Having scrolled the dial to the end, I noticed one oddity. The Osmosian and Andromede split up? I asked Professor. Yes, now they are 2 completely different aliens. This is my birthday present to you, Paradox said, ignoring that I had already named the new alien. Fine. Thank you. With a satisfied smile, I said. Is it your birthday today? Ben asked in surprise. I don't know what your day is today, but when I fell asleep in my bed before they pulled me out here, I had July 7th. My 16th birthday. I said. Well, you have a holiday, Kevin said with a laugh. Here you are right. I agreed. Unfortunately, it's time for you to say goodbye, said the professor, interrupting us. What? But why so fast? We could spend some more time together. Lex could meet our father. Ben said. It's pretty sweet that he thought about it. It's better for Alexander not to appear in your reality. And who knows what might disappear there, Paradox said with a smile. You sound like I'm some kind of kleptomaniac. I take only what I can use, from those who do not need it. Mostly criminals. I said, rolling my eyes. And that's why you robbed the castle of the Forever Knights? The professor asked with a raised eyebrow. Just a couple of times. In addition, the knights of them, like a ballerina out of me. Ordinary smugglers. I said, snorting. You did it in 2 different realities. Paradox noted. Well, yes, but I took something that they definitely won't need. Because they didn't know what to do with it. I said. What about those 2 spaceships? One belonged to crazy cultists, and the other, in fact, to a slave owner. They are not sorry. What about Element X? Professor asked again with a sigh. Those idiots can't be trusted. And stop following me so closely. Give me some freedom. I said unhappily. Professor, having heard my words, decided to remain silent and not continue this conversation. Looking at Kevin, Ben and Gwen, I saw them looking at me with wide eyes. After a few seconds, Ben finally asked, "Did you really do all this?" I decided that I should ignore this question and said, "Like Professor said, it's time for me to say goodbye." "Did he just ignore you?" Kevin asked Ben. Ignoring Kevin's words, I said, "Well, it was a pleasure to meet you. And although I suffered, it was a good adventure. Take care of yourself. And if so, call for help." "How can I help?" Having finished, I nodded to the professor. He again put his hand on my shoulder and I was teleported back. Third POV. After the departure of our main character. Did he just run away? Gwen asked. Yes, looks like it. Ben and Kevin said. Forget about it. I will return you, the egregor, and our friends to Galvan Prime. But first, where is the map of infinity? Paradox asked. Hearing the professor's question, the trio's eyes widened. They looked at each other, after which Ben said, "We do not know. When Lex defeated the egregor, we were not up to it. Especially when Lex screamed in pain, we completely forgot about the map. Then, we quickly boarded the ship and flew away. Clear. Should have figured it out right away. Okay, he deserves a reward for his help. I'll deal with that later. Perhaps that's even better. Now there is no map in this reality," Professor said with a sigh. "So Lex took the map?" Gwen asked. "Who else?" "I like this guy," Kevin said with a laugh. "Forget it. Let's go," said Professor, after which he teleported everyone to Galvan Prime. At Azimuth Tower on Galvan Prime, Azimuth paced back and forth in his office. He was very worried, because if the egregor wins, no one will be greeted. But he stopped when a flash of light appeared in the office. Azimuth shielded his eyes from the bright light. When the light disappeared, he looked at its source. Ben, Gwen and Kevin appeared there, holding the egregor's body on his shoulder. Standing next to them was Professor Paradox. And in front of them, on the floor, sat 5 aliens from the Andromeda Galaxy. They were unconscious. Seeing them, Azimuth quickly understood the whole situation and breathed a sigh of relief. "You did it," said Azimuth, after which he summoned his assistants. One took the egregor. After that, the plumbers will take him away and put him in the darkest cell. Other assistants took the victims of the egregor and carried them to the medical block. They will be taken care of and helped to recover. After that, they will be taken home. Well, some go home and some go to jail. Still, do not forget that Pander is a criminal and in his home world he managed to do problems. When no one else was left in the office, Azimuth said. "You were right, Professor. The boy did a great job. They actually helped us. Without his help, we would definitely have lost, or something worse could have happened." Ben said honestly. "Yes? And who helped you?" Azimuth asked curiously. "The guys will tell you everything, my friend. And it's time for me to go. I need to visit our friend," said Professor, and disappeared with a bright flash of light. "Tell me," Azimuth said. What followed was a long story of what happened. And then, Azimuth released the guys and they returned to Earth. Chapter 62, 61. Map of Infinity and Birthday Home Dimension. Lex 13. July 7, 2010. I woke up in my bed in a Pittsburgh hotel. As far as I remember, I fell asleep in the living room. But it seems that Grandpa carried me to bed, and also covered me with a blanket. Looking under the blanket, I found that I was still dressed in my clothes. Apparently, he decided not to undress me, not that age after all. Well, it's good. I wouldn't want to fight the egregor in just underpants. This led me to believe that I hadn't put a supply of clothes into my spatial storage. This oversight will need to be corrected. Well, it doesn't really matter now. I got out of bed and stretched. Oh, how good I am. I feel just great. Nothing hurts anywhere. I am full of strength. It's just wonderful. The mood immediately lifted. Taking the phone out of inventory, I looked at the time. It was already 11 a.m. I slept so well. In fact, although I had a good night's sleep, I would still be happy to lie in bed. But I have to go. Today is my birthday and I must definitely celebrate it with my family. Getting up from the bed I was sitting on, I went to the bathroom. But there was a flash of light in the room and Professor Paradox appeared. Professor? Something happened? I asked him. Nothing serious. Can you give me the map of infinity? Paradox asked. Map? I asked in surprise. Where does map come from? I didn't even take it in my hands. If only. After looking into my spatial storage, I actually found the map infinity. Taking it out of my inventory, I took the MP in my hand and looked at it. And when did you have time? I asked myself. I really don't remember putting the map in my inventory. I was too focused on the fight against the egregor that I did not notice how I took the map. It looks like it all happened on reflexes. Maybe you're right, Professor, about my tendencies. I said thoughtfully, handing the map to Paradox. Professor let out a chuckle and said, Do not pay attention. You don't have any tendencies. It's just that you're very frugal and don't like to leave useful things idle. I was just joking like that. Is that how? Well then, don't do it again. I already began to doubt myself. I said with reproach. I will try. Professor said with a smile. Judging by his pleased face, I'm in for a few more of these jokes. So what will happen to the map? I asked. I would like to give it to you. Paradox said. Yes? Why? For your help in the fight against the egregor. You deserve a reward. Moreover, you had to fight with a minimum of strength. This is worthy of a reward. Professor said with a smile. Is it okay that in this reality there will be 2 maps of infinity, but in Ben's reality there will be none? I asked. No, everything will be fine. In the prime dimension, the map has already served its purpose. She won't be useful there anymore. As for your measurements, here I need to explain something. There is only one map of infinity, as is the Forge of Creation. All parts of the map were in a special space, which can be accessed from any reality. Professor said. But there is a huge number of alternative realities, and therefore the same number of aggregors. How is it that none of them met in this space and why, let's say, everyone has enough maps? I asked. Here, I used the laws of time. For example, the clone of time, but you still don't understand this. Everything is too complicated. The only thing you should know is that everything will continue to work as before, and you should not worry. Professor said. Okay. It still doesn't concern me. I said. That's right. For now. So will you accept the map of infinity? Professor asked. Actually, I'm not quite sure if I need her. I said doubtfully. Do you really think that the map of infinity can only open the way to the forge? This is not true. It has many wonderful and useful functions, said Professor Paradox. It is truth too. And what are these functions? I asked. Are you not interested in finding out for yourself? Professor said with a smile. To his question, I just rolled my eyes. In general, everything, as always. All right, give us your map of infinity here. I said and held out my hand. Certainly, said Professor, after which, unexpectedly quickly, he extended his hand with a map and hit it on my chest. The blow was strong. I moved a few steps away and almost fell. The map lit up with a bright light, after which it was absorbed into my chest. Most importantly, I felt nothing, just a slight warmth in my chest. After a few seconds, I came to my senses and asked, What was it? I gave you the map of infinity. Now, she belongs to you. Completely and forever. No one can ever take her away. Not even me. Now all her power is yours. And now goodbye, my friend. We'll see you in the future, said Professor, and with a flash of light, he disappeared from the room. After a couple of minutes, I said, Thank you, Weather. It was nice to meet you. Here, from everywhere, the voice of the professor was heard. I was pleased too, future Void Lord. From his voice, I twitched and shouted, Which other lord? And stop looking at me all the time. Give me personal freedom. I stood for another 5 minutes waiting for the professor's answer, but received only silence. Well, to hell with you. Still, it will continue to follow. Stalker unfinished. Having given up on the paradox, I decided to check the map. As the map of infinity soaked into my chest, I seemed to feel something on my left arm. I removed the Morgana bracelet and looked at my wrist. On it I saw, already so dear to me, the tattoo of luck. But what I was interested in was under it. I have a new tattoo. It was the sign of infinity. As I understand it, this is where the power of the map of infinity lies. The tattoo was rather unusual. More specifically, her color. The tattoo itself looked like an ordinary sign of infinity, but instead of black, as is usually the case, it shimmered in all possible colors. It actually looked very nice. And it really gave a sense of infinity. When I was finally able to take my mind off my new tattoo of infinity, I realized that it was almost 12 in the morning. It's time to leave the room and celebrate my birthday. After changing into clean clothes, I went to the bathroom, where I cleaned myself up and took my morning exercise. After that, I opened the door and entered the living room. There, I saw Gwen and Ashley. They sat on the couch and watched the news on TV. This time, it showed the appearance of the Legion in the center of the city and his battle with the aliens. God, they're already playing this on TV. Another problem. How glad I am that I created the costume and no one ever found out my identity. But, after a while, I will need to make a new suit with a different design. So, I will be able to act more freely until people understand that it will be me too. Postponing this idea for later, I said. Good morning. Morning. Ashley said kindly. Actually, it's lunchtime. Gwen said. I'm just a little tired. So I decided to take a nap. I said. Again, doing something early in the morning, while everyone was sleeping. Gwen asked. Yes. Something had to be done on Mars. Nothing important. By the way, where is Grandpa? I said. He went to get a cake for you. Ashley said. Right. Happy birthday, sweetheart, said Gwen, after which she got up from the couch, came up to me and gave me a kiss full of love. 10 minutes later we ran out of air, so we stopped. Ashley also came up to me and kissed me. We continued kissing for another hour until Grandpa returned. When everyone gathered, we all changed into formal clothes and went to a restaurant to celebrate a birthday. I wore a black suit with a black shirt, black shoes, and a blue tie. Grandpa put on a white shirt and black pants. And the girls put on beautiful dresses. Gwen was wearing a knee-length red dress. It suited her very well and she was really beautiful. Ashley chose a black dress. In fact, she was very sexy. We took a taxi to get to the restaurant. There, we spent several hours gobbling up various delicacies and returned to the hotel only at 8 in the evening. At the hotel, we ate a cake that Grandpa bought. Then it was time for gifts. Ashley gave me a game from the Sumo Slammed series. According to her, this is the best game in the series and I will definitely like it. Let's see. Gwen gave me a leather jacket that looks suspiciously like the one Ben Prime wears. Now I know where this jacket came from. My jacket had the same design, but the main color was blue instead of green as usual. And instead of the number 10 at the heart, I had the number 13. Gwen knows my taste buds, so jacket is totally my style and I was pleased. Now, I also have my own signature jacket. Grandpa was surprised. He gave me a car. Well, more precisely the keys to it. It was a 2009 Chevrolet Camaro. Dark blue with black stripe. The car itself is now in the garage of our house. This car, at the moment, is just a regular Camaro, without any upgrades. According to Max, I can do whatever I want with her. Make changes, add alien technology and so on. But I can only ride it when I pass on the right. At least officially. It was a good gift, so I thanked him with all my heart. After that, we sat for another hour and Grandfather went to bed. And the girls and I kissed until midnight. We didn't go further because it's still too early. At least for Gwen, but Ashley doesn't want to hurt her, so we all tolerate it. At 12 o'clock in the morning we finally parted and went to bed. It was an extremely long and eventful day. Chapter 63, 62. Tattoo of Infinity. July 8, 2010. I woke up, as usual lately, early, at 5 a.m. Grandfather already seemed to have got up, since he was not in the room. I felt fresh and rested, so I decided to go to Mars anyway. At first I thought it was not worth going there for a couple of days, but I still decided that the sooner I finished dismantling the ship, the better. After tidying up in the bathroom and taking my morning exercise, I put on the new jacket Gwen had given me yesterday and walked out of my room into the living room. There, I saw Max's girl sitting on the couch watching TV while drinking fresh coffee. Good morning. I said kindly. Morning. Are you already up? Grandpa asked. Yes. I wanted to check the car before the girls wake up. I said. Fine, but stay too long. I wanted to leave early today. Max said. Good. I'll be there in 2 hours. I said and turned into the Two Tails, teleported to Mars. As always, After first protecting myself with a layer of magical energy from the harsh conditions of Mars, I ended up on this planet. There was no one here, except for a huge pile of drones. It looks like my clones dissipated when I left this universe. Still, it's too far away. And this is logical. Before dissipating, the clones were able to do very little. The ship is only 40% disassembled. At first I planned to dismantle it in just 3 days, but it seems that I overestimated my strength. Having again created 3 clones, which, turning into an upgrade, went further to disassemble the ship, I looked at the mountain of materials. Of course, this time there are not too few of them, but it is still a significant amount. After transforming into the Two Tails, I began to teleport all the materials to my cave. This time I did it in just 25 minutes. And I didn't even seem to get tired. Next time I will do so. I no longer want to be left without strength, at the most inconvenient moment. Having finished with the transportation of all materials, I decided to take a little rest in my laboratory. For now, I don't want to deal with my new aliens because it's taking too long. I'll leave that for later. 20 minutes later, I felt full of energy again, so I decided to test the function of my tattoo of infinity. First, I tried to feed my mana into the tattoo to activate it. I usually do this with the tattoo of luck and it works. But not at this time. By this action, I achieved absolutely nothing. Okay, I'll try differently. Professor seemed to say that I had full control over the map and it belonged to me, so I gave a mental command to the map that I wanted to know about its functions. It worked, but only partially. Looks like I can't use the full potential of the map of infinity yet. At the moment, I have learned about only 3 functions of the tattoo. The first is, oddly enough, a map. At my request, a 3-dimensional map appears above the tattoo itself. Tattoo made to show me a map of the Earth, and I will get the most detailed map that exists in the universe. I can see any house on any street. And it seems that this map is constantly updated. I could see the place where I fought Volcanus and 6-6 and there. The cracks in the pavement that I had left with Volcanus' body were still visible. This map, of course, does not show everything in real time, but it is updated once a day. Well, since it's a map of infinity, I can view a map of the entire galaxy. Maybe the universe, but so far, I can't do it. Apparently, the map has not yet adapted. For fun, I looked at Mars and saw my sand dome. I haven't been able to see what's under the dome, but I have a feeling that in the future I'll be able to. In fact, this map is very convenient and understandable. It works on mental commands, and it is very easy for me to find the right place. True, for this I need to know the name of the place, but this is not such a big drawback. The second function is teleportation. I can teleport anywhere, but first I need to find this place on the map. In this regard, the Two Tails is more convenient and faster. But if I get used to using the map, it should not be long and difficult either. But, now I can get to any place in the galaxy in just a few seconds, even if I have never been there. It is great. But as far as I understand, for now, I can only teleport myself. If I want to take someone with me, I won't succeed. And I can't take too many things. It's good that for such cases, I have spatial storage. I think this will change in the future too. Well, the last function available to me at the moment is the energy storage. And I am very glad that I have the opportunity to use this feature. It's good that I never gave up on the map. It would be stupid. This vault is very similar to Tsunade Senju's Strength of 100 seal, Byakugo no In, from the Naruto. This storage is capable of storing a huge amount of any energy, perhaps even an infinite number. And later, when I'm exhausted or I need more energy than I have available, I can take that energy and replenish my reserve. And it's just wonderful. Basically, I now have unlimited storage for my backup, just in case. A great example of the need for such storage is my recent battle against the egregor. Due to the fact that I spent almost all of my mana, I was very weakened. And now, I can always recharge from the storage in the Tattoo of Infinity, and this situation will never happen again. By the way, storage is not as simple as it seems. Apart from the fact that it is supposedly infinite, there is one more interesting detail. For now, it's one big storage where I can store my mana at the moment. But apparently, it can be divided into several sectors, where I can store other types of energy and they will not mix. For example, this is very convenient for feedback. His main weakness is that he needs access to energy. By using a compartment designed specifically for feedback's energy, I can get rid of this weakness. But all this for later. First, in order to create an initial reserve, I immediately stuffed into my storage 70% of my mana reserve. I said reserve, but that's not entirely correct. I, like Anodite, do not have any hearth or similar organs in my body to store mana. My mana is stored in every cell of my body. Therefore, when I have practically no mana, I feel squeezed out like a lemon. Now I have 30% mana left in my body. This is the normal amount to feel good. When there are 20% left, I will be already tired. And when there are 10% left, it will be really bad for me. It is not recommended to use magic when I have only 5% reserve. Nothing terrible will happen, but I will really feel very bad. After the battle with the egregor, I had only 4%. When the mana runs out completely, then I, in any case, will lose consciousness. This is such an emergency defense mode so that my body can restore energy. Now, I have 70% energy in my storage and 30% in my body. When the mana in the body is restored to 70% again, this indicator will remain at this mark. From now on in my body, there will always be only 70%. All mana restored after this indicator will be sent to the energy storage. Not only will this permanently increase the amount of mana in storage, but it will help me speed up my mana regeneration. And of course it will help increase the amount of mana in my body. This will be due to the constant movement of magic in my body. Also, I plan to send almost all my mana to the storage every time before going to bed. In general, there are some advantages from this. Having finished with the mana storage, I decided to go to my new car. At the same time, I will check the work of the Tattoo of Infinity. Activating the card, I mentally said the address of my house. The map showed me the house from above, from a bird's eye view. Wishing to be there, I teleported. In a second, I was already there and standing right in front of my garage. Unexpectedly, but it was a very pleasant teleportation. I almost didn't feel anything. Even when I'm in the form of the Two Tails, when I teleported, I always feel like I'm twitching. As a result, I feel slightly nauseous. But I'm used to it. And this time, everything was fast, convenient, and easy. I closed my eyes in one place and opened them in another. Gorgeous. Opening the garage, I saw my new car. She was under the tarpaulin, removing which, I saw my Camaro. It was a great and beautiful car. After checking it, I was convinced that the machine was in full working order. It was brand new and even smelled special inside. There wasn't even a run yet. And when only grandfather managed to buy it and put it in the garage. Sometimes I marvel at his multitasking. Since I'm here, I decided to take a little ride. It's good that grandpa taught me how to drive last year. In my previous life, I never learned this. But this time, I corrected this misunderstanding. After placing the car in my inventory, I reactivated the map and found the perfect place to test drive, after which I teleported away. I was in the middle of the desert. There was nothing but asphalt. It was Highway 66. The perfect place to drive. I pulled out the car, got behind the wheel and started my Camaro. The next hour, I was testing my new car. And it was great. There are of course a few drawbacks, but I will fix everything in the future when I do modernization. I only stopped when I ran out of gas. Another drawback. I will fix this too. It was already almost 7 in the morning, so I returned the car to inventory and returned to the garage, where I left the car. I decided it was worth a little run, so I turned into an XLR8 and ran to Pittsburgh. And so, I found another function of the Map of Infinity. Navigator. At my request, a blue arrow appeared in front of my eyes, which shows me the way to the hotel. It is very convenient and more. I will definitely never get lost. In 5 minutes I was there. Entering our room, I saw the girls already awake. Good morning. I said. Hi/morning. Gwen and Ashley said at the same time. How is the car? Grandpa asked. Great. Thanks again. I said with a smile. Yes, not for anything. Pack your things. We'll leave after breakfast. Max said. Okay. I said, after which I put all the things that were left in the room into my inventory and went to the hotel restaurant. Soon grandfather and the girls joined me. We had a quick breakfast, after which we got on the bus and drove out of the city. Chapter 64, 63. New Aliens. Leaving Pittsburgh, we drove south. Grandpa decided that we should also visit Mexico. That's where we're going now. True, the road itself will take us 2 whole days. This includes stops for food and sleep. It's a long time to say, but I'll find nothing to do with myself. Once we were out of town, I pulled out my laptop and the new game Ashley had given me. I turned on my computer and started playing. It took me several hours to complete the entire game. I finished by 6 in the evening. I only stopped to go to the bathroom and eat. I really liked this game. It was much better than the one I played before. but still not a masterpiece. Almost comparable to the first Mass Effect. For this world, this is actually a very good result. Although I complain, I understand perfectly well that I can hardly find a better game here. In this world, there are big problems with entertainment, and many of the classics that were common in my past world do not exist. Of course, I could create everything anew, but I'm frankly too lazy to do it. And it will not bring me any benefit, except for money. Well, I'm just wasting my time. I don't like games enough to waste time and create new one. Well, or not quite new, but a copy from my old world. And, to be honest, it will not be the same at all. It's one thing when you play a game that another person created, but it's quite another when you made this game. It won't be that interesting. I will know absolutely everything about the game. All her mysteries and secrets. It's boring. Same thing with a book. Reading your own book is not that interesting. Even vice versa. Because when you read, you are constantly looking for flaws in it. And it's pretty hard to enjoy reading your own work, even if it's good. So, I will play local games. Still, I don't do it that often. I can endure. Turning off my laptop, I got up from my seat and stretched. I sat up for something. Well, how? Ashley asked when she saw that I had beaten the game. Not bad. I like it. Better than the last game. I said honestly. Not bad? It's a masterpiece. And you speak not bad. Ashley yelled indignantly. I'm just not as big of a fan of the series as you are. Besides, I don't really like sumo slammers. To each his own. I said calmly. Ashley wanted to continue her tirade about the brilliance of the game, but after hearing my words, she thought a little and nodded. You're right. To each his own. Ashley said and returned to the book she had been reading before. I went to the bed where Gwen was now lying and also reading something. Seeing that I was walking towards her, she smiled and asked, "Have you finished playing yet? Can I take your laptop? I wanted to watch one new movie. You have your own computer. You can use it." I said sitting on the bed. My laptop has a small screen, so it is inconvenient to watch movies on it. And yours is big and comfortable. He's generally much better. Gwen said. Well, of course. I created it myself. He should be like this. I said with a grin. Gwen just rolled her eyes at my words and asked again. So can I take it? Certainly. Can use it as much as he wants. At least today, I won't need it anymore. I said. Thank you. Gwen said and got out of bed and went to my laptop. Taking her hand to stop her, I said softly. Later I'll make you the same laptop. Maybe even better. This will be my gift. Gwen smiled brightly at me and kissed me on the lips. But so that grandfather does not see anything. Thanks again. Gwen said and walked on. I collapsed on the bed and looked at the Omnitrix. Since I still have about 2 hours left to stop, I decided to check out all the aliens I got from Ben. I didn't do it before because I wanted to relax and have some fun. And now the time has come. The last time, before I got into the Forge of Creation and all this adventure with the egregor, I had 28 aliens. The most recent aliens I got were Ultimos and Squid. I checked their strength, but not very carefully, due to the fact that at that time I was very tired. I have never used them in battle either. We'll need to fix this in the future. After activating the watch, I looked at the dial, on which the silhouette of Heat Blast appeared. Everything is like the first time. It feels like I just haven't used the Omnitrix the old-fashioned way for a huge amount of time. It seems that even a month and a half has not passed since I found this magic watch, but it seems that several years have passed. Using the watch in this way makes me feel nostalgic. I don't know why, but it's quite a pleasant feeling. So, I remember the whole past path and my achievements. I've achieved a lot. I don't even believe it. Found the Omnitrix, learned magic, got 2 girls, beat up Vilgax, met Ben Prime and Professor Paradox, got 2 tattoos. And this is only the most important thing. At such moments, I feel like an old man, not a teenager who just turned 16 yesterday. But, it helps a lot to better look at your actions and mistakes, if any. And think about your plans for the future better. With that, I decided to stop philosophizing and turned my attention to my watch. Turning the dial, I saw the 4 arms, and then again turned the dial 28 more times. After Squid, the first new alien showed up. Judging by the silhouette, it was Swampfire, a representative of the Methanosian race from the planet Methanos. It's rather unusual to see aliens from the Alien Force, and Ultimate Alien, in the old-fashioned Omnitrix. Instead of a holographic silhouette like Ben had, I just have the shadow of an alien. Swampfire is a pretty good alien. Although, if you think about it, he's just a mixture of Heat Blast and Wildvine. I don't have access to the last one yet. Until I transformed into this alien, I couldn't say much about him, so I immediately moved on to the next alien. The 30th alien available to me was Big Chill. Pretty cool alien. Again, we can say that this is a mixture of two aliens, namely the Ghost Freak and ISEKAI. This is not entirely true, of course, but it's still an example. The 31st alien is the Brainstorm. An alien similar to a gray matter in terms of intelligence. But he is stronger and with additional abilities. Alien number 32 is Chromastone. Exactly the alien that Tetrax was waiting for. It will be necessary to inform him later and help restore his planet. But it's not entirely clear how I got this alien. After all, Ben lost the ability to turn into a Chromastone when he helped Tetrax with his planet. Well, okay. Since I received the Chromastone, then I should be pleased. The next alien is Echo Echo. Ditto, without a major flaw, with the ability to scream at high frequencies. 34th alien, Goop. A very good alien, but with a huge weak point, in the form of an anti-gravity projector. The next alien is Lodestar. Its main power is magnetic field control. In fact, Magneto is at the minimum. Number 36 is the Spider Monkey. Again, Spider-Man is on the minimum. It looks like the creators of this universe were Marvel's fans. Number 37 is Humongosaur. Another enforcer. I have enough of these. But such an alien is never superfluous. Moreover, he is larger than all my aliens. Number 38. Alien X. Even though Ben blocked this hero, it was pretty easy for me to get it. Still, the whole battle with the egregor took place on the palms of the Celestialcipian. But I don't even plan on turning into this alien anytime soon. I don't want to be stuck with two Alan X personalities. Number 39 is Chameleon. Useful alien. After all, I only have one hero with the invisibility ability. Although Chameleon's ability is not invisibility, but merging with the environment, which is implied by his nickname. But this is not too important. And again, it is not clear how I got it, because the event with Prisoner 775, from whom Ben took this DNA sample, occurred after the battle with the egregor. The only explanation is that it is not, and Ben's team met this alien earlier. More confirmation that I cannot rely on the knowledge of the series and always expect a catch. After all, this is the real world, not a cartoon for children. Okay, it doesn't matter, let's move on. The 40th and 41st aliens are very similar. They have a similar concept of forces. Upchuck and Eatle. It's not entirely clear what kind of Upchuck I got. After all, there are two types of this alien, Perk Gourmand and Merc Gourmand. Well, when I change, I'll find out. Eatle and Upchuck have almost the same abilities. They eat any garbage, digest it, and fire an energy blast. Eatle does it from a horn on its head, and Upchuck does it from its mouth. And that's all. Alien number 42. Fast Track. In fact, the same speedster as the XLR-8. But Fast Track is slower, but physically stronger. It can carry a lot of weight, unlike the same XLR-8, and since he's a feline humanoid, Fast Track has tremendous agility, flexibility, and superhuman senses. Number 43 is Jury-Rig. In fact, an incredibly useful hero, technologically. He can help me dismantle the spaceship. Aliens numbered 44, 45, 46, 47 and 48 are aliens from the Andromeda Galaxy who were kidnapped by the egregor. Water Hazard, Terraspin, NRG, Amphibian, Armadillo. I have already talked a little about them, so everything is clear. And I received an analog of the Water Hazard, in the form of Overflow, a month ago, and I am already perfectly familiar with this hero. The 49th alien is a mixture of these 5 aliens. And as I said, I decided to call him Andromed. Despite the fact that the professor took 50% of Androm's strength, he is still incredibly strong and useful. Most likely, he is the second most powerful alien I have, after Alien X. The last one is the Osmosian. Everything about him is clear. Well, what can I say? Cool. As many as 50 heroes. It's really a lot. After I finished checking, I decided to get some sleep. So, lay down comfortably and fell asleep. Chapter 65. 64. Alien Fungus. I woke up about 2 hours later. It was already dark outside and it was raining. Getting out of bed, I walked past Ashley, who was still reading a book, and past Gwen, who was watching a movie on my laptop, and walked over to Grandfather, who was driving. What time is it? I asked, sitting in the front seat next to Max. It's almost 9 o'clock in the evening. Grandfather answered, continuing to drive the bus. Weren't we supposed to be camping at 8 in the evening? I asked, pulling out my phone from the spatial storage to check the time. It's actually almost 9. Plans have changed. There was a collapse on the road, so we had to change the route, Max said. So that's why we ended up in a mountainous area, I said and looked out the bus window. Now we were driving along a mountain road. I must say, the road itself was quite steep, with a lot of turns. And it's raining outside. So it's no wonder Grandpa is so focused on the road right now. One wrong move and we fell off a cliff, straight down. It's good that Max is a really good driver. Basically, don't have to worry. Just at that moment, right in front of our bus, a boy of about 12 jumped out and shouted, "Help!" Grandpa hit the brakes. I shouted. I was about to turn into an alien to save the boy, but Grandfather was able to slow down in time. The bus spun a little, but we were all safe. True, Ashley and Gwen fell to the floor because they weren't ready to stop, but they're fine. The kid himself was also able to jump out of our way in time. But apparently from fright, he jumped too hard and now he is hanging over the abyss, holding on only to a branch. Since Ashley and Gwen hadn't recovered from the emergency brake yet, I jumped out of the bus and ran to the kid. Using magic, I created a magical construct in the form of a huge hand. The boy had already lost all his strength and, releasing his hand, began to fall down. Using X-ray vision, I looked through the rock and guided my construct. A large blue hand grabbed the kid and squeezed his body. After that, I jerked my hand back and put the boy back on the road. Dispelling my hand, I laid the boy down and looked at him. It looks like he lost consciousness from fear. He didn't look very good. All pale and bags under the eyes. Since it's raining now, it's also frozen. I didn't really want to pick up an unknown kid, so I once again created a big arm and took the guy with it and went to the bus. I got on the bus and saw Gwen and Ashley. Everything happened so quickly that they had not even had time to realize what had happened, and only by this moment they were on their feet. "How is he?" Grandpa asked as he unfastened his seat belt. Getting up from the driver's seat, he walked around the girls who were turning their heads trying to recover, took the kid from the construct and laid him on the bed. All is well with him. He fell off a cliff, but I was able to catch him in time. He passed out from exhaustion and fear. He was also completely wet. I said, going to the bed and standing behind Grandfather. "It's clear. It's okay," Grandpa said with a weary sigh. Well, yes, he must have been worried about all this. Still, he nearly hit the kid. "His name is Gilbert," Gwen said as she approached and pointed to the name patch on the kid's shirt. She and Ashley had finally recovered from the sudden stop and were now looking at Gilbert with curiosity. "Yes, the guy with the name was unlucky," Ashley said with a laugh. "I wonder what he was doing in the middle of the road at such a late hour?" Gwen asked. "Judging by the patch, he's from some summer camp," I said and took out my phone to check the card. After a couple of minutes, I said, "There is Camp Opinacon 5 kilometers from here. Apparently he's from there. It's just not clear why he was here. Maybe he just ran away from the camp. This often happens. In any case, we need to take him to the camp. He's probably already being looked for. Besides, there should be a medical center," Grandpa said. "Right." I agreed. "And what is it?" Ashley asked, pointing her finger at the lilac spot on Gilbert's arm. "Do not touch. It may be contagious," I said to Ashley and slapped her on the arm. "Sorry," Ashley said, holding her hand. "It's quite possible it's some kind of fungal infection," Gwen said, looking at Gilbert's hand. "Wait a minute," said Grandpa and went to one of the lockers. From there, he took out a jar of powder from the fungus. "This should help," Max said, then sprinkled some powder on Gilbert's hand. The fungus behaved very strangely. As soon as the powder touched Gilbert's hand, all the fungus twitched and then simply dissolved and disappeared. We all looked at it with bulging eyes. Oddly enough, Ashley was the first to recover from the shock. She quickly snatched the can of powder from Grandfather's hands and sprinkled it on her hands. After spending half a can, she finally calmed down and looked at us. Me, Grandpa and Gwen looked at her with dumb shock. "What? Is it really contagious?" Ashley said. Paying no more attention to Ashley, I looked at Gilbert's hand and touched it a little, after which I said, "It certainly wasn't an ordinary fungus. Perhaps this is again the tricks of aliens. We'd better go to the camp." "That's right, we need to get there as soon as possible," said Grandpa and sat behind the wheel, drove to the camp, following the map. 5 minutes later we were at the camp. Grandpa drove in through the main entrance and stopped the bus in front of one of the buildings. Leaving Gilbert on the bus, we got off and went inside the building. It turned out to be a dining room. Inside was complete destruction. Tables and chairs were overturned and food left behind. Wow, everyone is running away, Ashley said, surveying the whole mess with curiosity. Yes, as if they were blown away by the wind, Gwen said. Grandpa walked over to one of the tables that was still standing, and ran his hand over a bowl of spaghetti. The food is still hot, obviously they ran in a hurry, Max said. Just at that moment, there was a sound of thunder outside and the light was cut off. Grandfather took out 2 flashlights, which he, just in case, took on the bus. He kept one for himself and gave the other one to Ashley and Gwen. I took out my phone and turned on the light on it. From the direction of the kitchen there was a noise, so, lighting the way, we went there. Entering the kitchen, we saw a bunch of dirty dishes. And nothing more. Ashley and Gwen obviously didn't like the place and were trembling a little. It seems that they are already adult girls who have fought with aliens more than once, but are afraid of simple darkness. I don't understand them. So that they would not be so scared, I let them take my hand. Gwen grabbed my arm and Ashley grabbed my elbow. As we walked further into the kitchen, we saw 2 pairs of eyes that practically glowed in the dark. This scared Ashley and Gwen very much and they screamed. I just lit up that place and saw 2 twins. They were a boy and a girl. They were about 8 years old. They hid in the closet. Grandfather, I found the children, I said to Max. He will deal with children better and be able to calm them down. They were clearly very scared. I paid attention to my girls. They were very frightened and were now trembling while holding my hand. Calm down. They are just scared kids. Pull yourself together, I said, stroking the girls on the back, so that they would come to their senses. After a couple of minutes, they were finally able to pull themselves together and no longer trembled. At least not as much as before. While I was comforting my girls, Grandpa came over and started talking to the kids in the pantry. Are you okay? Grandpa asked in a soothing tone. For now. Yes. Leaving the pantry, these children said in turn. They seem to be the heirs of the Weasley twins and constantly take turns speaking after each other. What happened to you? And why are you hiding here? Grandfather asked, ignoring the manner of speech of the children. There was some noise outside, but, the boy began to say, we were scared to go out. And the girl finished. I'm Andy. The boy introduced himself. And I'm Mandy, the girl said. And we are twins. Andy and Mandy said at the same time, hugging each other. It seems to be their favorite representation. There was thunder outside, and the twins seemed to finally remember that they were scared. Shouting, they hid behind Max. Just at this point, I calmed down my girls and was able to pay attention to the children. Where is everyone else? I asked, waving my hands. Ashley and Gwen were still scared, so they grabbed and hung on my arms. Although, judging by their cunning faces, they are no longer so afraid. They really like the way I calm them down and protect them. Everybody left, Andy said, clutching Grandpa Max's leg. There is no one left here, Mandy said, repeating the steps after her brother. Grandfather visibly gloomed at their words, after which he went to the phone that hung on the wall and checked it. Apparently the hurricane damaged the telephone service. And cell phone too, Max said, looking at his old cell phone. Let's go back to Gilbert's, and let's go to the city, Grandpa said. Everyone was willing to leave this terrible camp, so we all quickly went to the bus. Once outside, I used telekinesis to create a shield over our heads to protect everyone from the rain. Oddly enough, the twins didn't even notice. Well, good. Going inside, Grandfather immediately got behind the wheel and tried to start the bus. But he didn't succeed. Frowning, Max got off the bus. The rain had completely stopped. It happened very quickly and unexpectedly. Raising the hood, Grandfather looked at the bus engine. A fungus sprouted on the entire motor, which is why the bus would not start. It looks like the whole motor is overgrown with some kind of fungus, said Max, carefully looking at the motor. Hearing his words, Ashley quickly ran into the bus and brought powder from there. Seeing what Ashley had brought, Grandpa said thoughtfully, maybe this will work. Taking the powder from Ashley's hands, he began to sprinkle it on the motor. It really worked and the fungus started to disappear. But the powder was only enough for half of the entire fungus. Not enough. Well, we'll have to stay here, Grandpa said. Taking Gilbert, we went to one of the cabins, following Andy and Mandy's directions. It turned out to be a living quarters, so we decided to stay here. Putting Gilbert on one of the beds, Grandfather said. Stay here, keep an eye on Gilbert. I'll go to the kitchen to get food. I will go with you, I immediately said. Good. Extra hands won't hurt, Max said and left the house. Before leaving, I took a serious look at Ashley and Gwen. Seeing my gaze, they immediately focused. While Ashley and Mandy were distracted, I approached them and pressed a special point on their neck. This prompted them to fall asleep. I did the same with Gilbert so that he would not wake up early. There is definitely something wrong with this camp. Stay here and protect the children. Let them sleep better. They shouldn't know about aliens. Gwen, cover the door and window with your magic shields. I ordered and went out. Good. Gwen said. They know when to joke and when to obey me implicitly. As I walked out the door, using my supervision, I saw Gwen put up her magical shields. Since Gwen listened to me, I cannot worry about them and focus on the case. Moving away from the house, I saw how several humanoid mushrooms attacked Grandfather. He was quickly tied up and dragged into the forest. I was about to save Max, but I stopped. Judging by the eyes, he saw me and knows that I am near. So Grandfather wants to be taken to the lair of these mushrooms. There I will save him and solve the local problem. Just in case, I used telepathy. And yes, I was right. This is his plan. It is clear that Max has long understood that this camp is not so simple. Of course, I could find the fungus den myself and decide everything. But since Grandfather wants it so, I will act according to his plan. I quickly turned into a chameleon and, merging with the terrain, ran after the kidnappers. I had little time to examine myself, but I noticed that I was still wearing pants. Thank God. I wouldn't want to be naked. 5 minutes later, we were in a strange area. Here everything was in strange luminous mushrooms. It must be said that it was quite a beautiful sight, but I could not be distracted. Max was dragged into a cave. Going after him, I saw that the humanoid mushrooms had already gone somewhere, and Grandfather's body is entwined with roots. Since I knew what to do next, I quickly turned into Ditto and created a clone, which turned into the Two Tails and freed Grandpa from captivity, teleported back to the camp. I, on the other hand, turned into an XLR-8 and ran inside the cave. I moved so fast that the roots couldn't catch me. After a couple of minutes, I arrived at the very heart of the cave. There was a mycelium here. I must say it's a nasty thing. Something like a brain. Also with teeth. When I got close to the mycelium, the Omnitrix glowed yellow. Apparently, I got the wild vine. It's rather strange, but I'm not up to it. The whole earth shook. It looks like the mycelium wants to grow mushrooms with its spores. I would not like to allow this. That's why I turned into Heat Blast. The mycelium picker is still too big, so I also started running mana through the body. Blue haze came out of me. This time, I used mana to increase not physical characteristics, but the power of my fire. When everything was ready, I released all my fire at full power. The mycelium picker from the heat of my flame was simply wiped off the face of the earth. But I didn't stop there. I continued to pour fire all over the cave. From my flame, everything in the area burned and melted. 10 minutes later, I destroyed everything that was possible. With that done, I turned into the Two Tails and returned to the camp. There, I saw that the half of the camp was strewn with mushrooms, more like flowers with closed buds. It seems that despite the fact that I was in a hurry, the mycelium managed to grow some of the mushrooms with their spores. Once again human, I looked around. Not far from the dining room, I saw my family. In the hands of Grandpa, Gwen and Ashley were cans of powder. Looks like they found the infirmary and found fungus powder there. When they saw me, they smiled and waved at me. How are you? Grandpa asked. Things are good. I destroyed the mycelium and the entire cave. There's nothing left. It is only necessary to destroy these disputes. We found powder. It works great against these alien fungus. Ashley said happily. All right, let's get this over with and go to bed. Gwen said with a yawn. Using our telekinesis, Ashley and I created a huge cloud of powder, which was lowered over the entire area. The medicine completely destroyed all remnants of alien spores, and we were able to relax. Having finished with everything, we returned to the house. There, we checked on Andy, Mandy, and Gilbert. Since they were still sleeping, Grandpa decided to leave them like that. Max stayed with them at the cabin to take care of them while me, Gwen, and Ashley got back on the bus. There we lay down on the bed and fell asleep in an embrace. Chapter 66. 65. Wildvine. July 9, 2010. I woke up from the scream of Gilbert. Looks like he's finally come to his senses. His scream woke Ashley and Gwen too. They slept on my chest all night. It was pleasant, although my whole body was numb. What was it? Gwen asked, continuing to lie on top of me. She didn't even move. Gilbert is finally awake. He remembered about the mushrooms, apparently. That's what he's screaming about. I said, hugging the bodies of the girls. So Grandpa will calm him down and we don't have to get up. Ashley said, hugging me tighter. Unfortunately, you still have to get up. It's morning already. Everyone was awake anyway. I said and kissed the girls on the lips, one by one. After enjoying the morning kiss, the girls finally got up off me. Getting up after them, I was pleased with the start of the day, stretched and warmed up. Might be worth recharging? No, I'm lazy. Taking the phone out of the spatial ring, I looked at the time. It was already 7 in the morning. We ended the debate at 2 o'clock in the morning. So we only got 5 hours of sleep. I had enough, but the rest of this is not enough. After kissing the girls again and poking their asses, I got off the bus and went to Grandpa's. He had just left the house. Gilbert and the twins followed him. As far as I can tell, Grandfather reassured Gilbert and explained the whole situation to him. Good morning, I said, walking up to Max. Morning. Are you already awake? Grandpa asked as he walked towards the bus. Yes. They helped us, I said, glancing at Gilbert. Gilbert apparently heard me, as he blushed heavily and looked down. Sorry. It's just that these mushrooms scared me a lot. I didn't know you already dealt with them, Gilbert said softly. Nothing. Since we're up, it's time for us to go, I said with a smile. Right. You just need to fix the motor. You are getting on the bus, said Grandfather and went towards the first aid post. There he took the last can of powder. It was just enough to destroy the last fungus on the motor. After bringing the children to the bus, I sat them down at the table. Since we didn't have dinner, everyone was very hungry. I didn't find anything significant in our kitchen, so I had to go to the camp canteen and find food for us. There was almost nothing there, but I was still able to make a few ham and cheese sandwiches. Got 2 for each mouth. It's not much, but at least it's something. Taking sandwiches, I went to the bus. Grandpa had just finished with the fungus and was going inside, so I immediately gave him 2 sandwiches so he could eat on the way. Thank you, Max said with a smile and sat behind the wheel and started the engine. After handing over the rest of the sandwiches, I took my portion and sat next to Grandpa. The sandwiches turned out unexpectedly tasty, but that was not enough. It took us an hour to get to the nearest town. Since we did not know what to do with the children, Grandpa decided to take them to the police. There, he handed Gilbert, Andy, and Mandy over to the police. They will take care of the children and take them home. Then, Grandpa drove us to the parking lot. Since everything happened very quickly in the morning, we could not put ourselves in order. This is what we did. After washing up and changing into clean clothes, we went to a pizzeria. There was an incredible craving, so we ordered 2 pizzas, for each. After eating our fill, we grabbed the leftovers and a few more pizzas for lunch and headed back to the RV. Everyone still wanted to sleep, but Grandfather didn't want to waste a whole day in this small town. Since I slept well, it was decided that I would drive the RV. In the past, I drove Grandfather's bus more than once. It was on it that Max taught me to drive. In general, Max does not like it when someone else drives his mobile home. Even me. But since he really wants to sleep this time and doesn't want to be stuck here, he agreed to let me drive. Now I do not have a license, and although I look like 17 to 18 years old, it's still too early to drive such a vehicle, so I turned into a slug and took on the appearance of Grandpa Max. Grandpa lay down on the couch and fell asleep almost immediately. I got behind the wheel, started the engine, and drove towards the border with Mexico. Gwen and Ashley sat next to me and entertained me with conversations. We finally had time, so I told them about my journey to the Forge of Creation and getting to know our alternate versions. After listening to my story completely, Ashley asked, "So, in another universe, I'm a guy?" "Yes," I simply answered. "And what is it like to meet a guy who is in another world? Is that your girlfriend?" Ashley asked with a grin. "A little strange. But there is nothing wrong. You just don't look alike." But the reaction of Kevin and Ben was priceless when they found out that I was relationship with you, I said with a laugh. Ashley laughed outright. The whole situation seemed to make her very happy. "And what was I?" Gwen asked curiously. She was almost no different from the current you. Only she used magic better and was a little more mature. I said. "Well, that's good too. What was the alternate version of you?" Gwen asked, looking into my eyes. "Well, he's a good guy. But he has a clear hero complex. He also does not know how to think ahead and often rushes ahead without thinking. And he doesn't know how to fight properly. To be honest, I'm surprised he hasn't died yet. In general, he is a typical shounen protagonist, almost always winning by luck. I expressed my opinion completely honestly. Is everything that bad? Ashley asked. Well, like I said, he's a good and kind guy. All have their shortcomings. I said. It's clear. Ashley said. It's a bit unfortunate that you keep getting into your adventures without us. Gwen said sadly. It's not my fault, it just happens. But, I promise that next time, I will try to take you with me. If it works out, of course. I said with a smile. Satisfied with my answer, Gwen reached out to kiss me. It was a bit weird since I still looked like Max, but because it was a good moment, I became human again and kissed Gwen. True, the kiss dragged on and I lost control of the RV a little and almost pulled over to the side of the road. Breaking off our kiss, I turned my attention back to the road. At that moment, a police siren sounded from behind. Here you go. I said, rolling my eyes. Transforming into Grandpa Max again, I stopped the bus at the curb. It took me almost 15 minutes to deal with the police. I got pulled over because my taillight didn't work. I will need to tell Grandpa about this. Max never woke up, so I got behind the wheel again and drove on. Then the girls and I talked a bit about alien mushrooms and stuff like that. After a couple of hours they decided to get some sleep and I was left alone. I never thought about it, but it's very boring to drive like this for several hours in a row, without company. I don't understand how Max does it. Taking out my phone and headphones, I turned on the music and drove on contentedly. 3 hours later we were already near the border. I stopped the bus at one of the gas stations to fill up the bus. Becoming myself, I went outside and paid for gasoline, began to fill the tank of our old bus. By the way, now I have been in the form of an alien for the longest time. For so long, I've never turned before. And most importantly, I did not experience any changes or discomfort. Everything was as always. Since everything was going well, I decided not to think about it and focus on my own business. It was at this moment that Max finally woke up and got out of the RV and asked, "Where are we?" "At the border." I decided it was best to refuel early and buy provisions. I said, pointing my finger in the border of Mexico. "You think right. I'll finish the gas station, and you can go to the store." Grandpa said. "Okay." I said and went to the store. The store wasn't very big, but I was able to find everything we needed. After 10 minutes we left the gas station and after another 5 we were already in another country. I woke up the girls and we ate leftover pizza. After that, we all 3 fell asleep. Grandpa woke us up at 7 o'clock in the evening when we arrived in the first major city in Mexico. After sitting by the fire at the campsite and spending time together, we had dinner and each went about his own business. Because I had time, I turned into the Two Tails and went to Mars. My clones have long since dissipated, but they have done their job. There is still about 25% of the ship left. I think now everything will go much faster, because I have a jury rig. Having created 4 clones, 2 of which became an upgrade, and 2 of which became a jury rig, I sent them to finish dismantling the ship. And he, again, turned into the Two Tails and began to teleport materials to his base. It took me an hour to move all the materials. This time, I was tired again, but not so much. Having finished with the transportation, I decided to check on my 51st alien. Well, I need to check all my new aliens, but I have neither the desire nor the strength to do this. But I still went to the training ground, where I turned into Wuldvine for the first time. After the transformation, I examined my body. I look exactly like the original Wilden. A green humanoid plant with 1 eye, in the middle of the face. There are 5 vine-like legs, 2 arms, each with 4 long, sharp fingers. On the chest is the Omnitrix sign. Around the head is a hood that looks like a Venus flytrap with several sharp teeth. The hood, by the way, can be closed to protect the head. There are 2 blue formations on the shoulders, and there are several black pods on the back that can be used as weapons. The vine is strong, hardy, agile, very resilient and flexible. I really liked how I move in the image of this alien. It's very cool. It can move quickly underground and swim well in water. Wildvine has a very high ability to regenerate. It doesn't cost him anything to grow new limbs. The vine can grow and change its body size like a real plant, but can retract it if desired. It can also grow and extend its arms, legs, and fingers into vine-like tentacles to grab and hold others. And also use such tentacles to move, like Spider-Man. In the image of this alien, I can merge with plant life, including earthly trees. Also, I can change my color to better camouflage. The wild vine can grow black fruits on its back, such as pods containing a variety of substances, lethal and non-lethal, allowing it to be used as explosives or smoke bombs, as mentioned above. Its pods can also grow vines. Using fantasy, you can use the powers of the vine in a wide variety of ways. But now, it doesn't really matter. After some more training, I turned back into the Two Tails and teleported to the RV. I had little strength left, so I went back to sleep. Chapter 67. 66. Jagger. July 10, 2010. I woke up because I felt my clones dispersed. Something happened? Need to check. I thought as I opened my eyes. Getting out of bed, I did my morning routine and put on clean clothes. I did all this as quietly as possible so as not to wake my family. After completing all my morning chores, I finally looked at the time. It was still only 4 a.m. Somehow too early. I seem to have slept well, but I still don't really want to do serious things. If something really serious happened on Mars, Morgana would warn me. So I can afford an hour of quiet breakfast. So after getting off the bus, I activated the Tattoo of Infinity and started looking for a place where I could buy breakfast. Another very handy feature of this map is that I can look at the rear ones as if standing in front of them. And this means that I can see the opening hours and find out if the institution is open. It also shows me the local time. Still, it cannot be the same time everywhere. Not to mention another planet, if 2 hours from my current location, there is already a different time zone and a different hour. I found a good place in New York. It is now, already 8 in the morning and the main eateries have opened. After teleporting, with the help of a new tattoo, to the alley near the selected cafe, I went inside and bought freshly brewed coffee and a freshly baked meat pie. I don't really like coffee in general, but if it's done right and more sugar is added, then you can drink it. Their tea, unfortunately, was not very good. Better coffee. Entering the alley again, I created a layer of magic around my body, turned into the Two Tails, and teleported to the moon. I have never been here, but when we had an excursion on the Merlin, I noticed one place where there would be a gorgeous view of the Earth. Once on the moon, I wanted to create a large dome around where I am to protect myself from the vacuum, but stopped. In general, I wanted to turn into Andromeda and sit quietly, drink coffee and eat a pie. Andromeda, it seems, can easily be in space. Well, at least that's what the egregor did. And the dome was needed to protect my breakfast from the vacuum. But suddenly, I found that I was not cold at all and I could breathe calmly. To check whether it seemed to me, I just stood and breathed for another 5 minutes. And everything was in perfect order. Even after I removed my protective mana layer. To finally make sure of everything, I turned into a man. And again, everything was fine. I could breathe and there was a comfortable temperature around me. The only remark was that it was very quiet and there was no wind. But it's the moon, that's how it should be. I think I can guess where it came from. Looking at my Tattoo of Infinity, I saw that it was glowing bright red. I think I've discovered the 4th function of the map of infinity. Earlier, I noticed that when each of the functions is activated, the tattoo lights up in different colors. Whereas, in normal times, it shimmers in different colors. Although this is not very bright. It's hardly even visible. When I use the map, the tattoo lights up blue. When I teleport, it lights up white. And when I replenish the energy storage with mana, the tattoo glows purple. Apparently, when she protects me from the vacuum, she burns red. Although perhaps this feature not only protects me from vacuum, but also from other extreme conditions. But this is not exactly clear yet, it will be necessary to find out later. Well, it's just more convenient for me. I can no longer worry about such an insignificant detail as surviving in space. Death from this, I no longer threaten. When I finally put aside unnecessary thoughts, I created a comfortable chair from my mana and sat down in it. To be honest, I thought it would be hard and uncomfortable. But no. Everything is just the opposite. The chair turned out soft, just like a real one. I didn't think my magic constructs were that good. Well, I'm better off. Sitting comfortably in my chair, I took out a pie and coffee, after which I began my breakfast on the moon. The view of the Earth was beautiful. The chair is comfortable. I even liked the coffee. And the pie was just an amalgamation. In general, life is wonderful. Well, I should have taken the girls with me, but any man needs personal time. Such a breakfast on the moon is my rest from everything that happens to me. That's when you need to use your superpowers. I don't understand those who never use their powers for themselves. These are your powers and you can do whatever you want with them. Of course, being a superhero and saving people is good, but you also need to be able to relax. I'm pretty sure that the same Superman never sat on the moon drinking coffee and enjoying the view. It's not heroic after all. Cretin. Bonfires about all sorts of heroes. I sat and drank coffee, looking at the earth. Sometimes he even used his supervision and spied on beautiful ladies. Again. Life is good. Underscore. An hour later, I finished my coffee and ate the whole pie. So I got up, scattered my chair and turned into the Two Tails and teleported to Mars. There, I was met with a surprise. My clones have already finished dismantling the entire ship. Fully. That's what happens when a jury rig joins the work. It was really fast. Well, since I only had to transfer all the materials to the cave, I did not postpone this matter and began a series of teleportations. My strength ran out after an hour and a half. There is practically no mana left, and I transferred only 80% of all materials. Actually, this is a good reason to use my new mana storage. Starting to replenish my strength with the previously abandoned mana, I participated as if I had been born again. This was great. And most importantly, there is still just a huge amount of mana left in the storage, despite the fact that I have been using the tattoo for only a few days. After a couple of minutes, I was already full of energy. It was fast. Also, the reserve has increased slightly. Just a few %, but that's something. So my idea works. Using my renewed strength, I began a new series of teleportations. Finished with all the materials, I'm already in 20 minutes. And even the strength is still there. Now it remains to decide what to do with all these robots. To leave them here, the toad will suffocate me, along with the hamster. But if samurai robots are still useful to me, then I definitely don't need gladiator robots. The only thing that comes to my mind is to turn into a jury rig and use his abilities to create something new from these robots. In general, this is what I will do. Transformed into a jury rig, I went to take 3,000 gladiator robots to pieces. Since this is the case, I will describe the jury rig himself and his powers. Jury rig is a small red alien that looks a lot like a goblin. He is small, only the size of a human child. It has a long tail, with an arrow at the tip. His ears are pointed and even larger than those of elves. The nose is big and long. His hands are obviously longer than they should be and have only 4 fingers. The legs, which are a bit short, have only 3 toes on each. The eyes are dark blue, with a black animal pupil. Jury rig is dressed in a black and blue outfit that is very similar to the pilot's suit. A hat is put on his head, again like a pilot's, and there are goggles to protect his eyes from welding. And he has a small scarf tied around his neck. The Omnitrix symbol is located on the chest. By the way, Jury Rig is one of those aliens that is able to influence the carrier of the Omnitrix. It changes the character of the wearer, making it more harmful, mischievous, and restless. Also, the Jury Rig has a huge traction, constantly destroying and disassembling everything. But, just like with Wrath, due to my overwhelming intelligence, I am not affected by the Jury Rig personality and can completely control myself. Jury Rig's most important ability is his ability to disassemble and assemble technology. In fact, Jury Rig is the perfect mechanic, engineer and inventor. In this image, I was able to take apart 3,000 robots in just 5 minutes. After that, using the received materials, I created a 60-meter robot in just an hour. In fact, I got a Gundam. Although he looked more like the Jagger from Pacific Rim, only prettier and newer. And my Jagger doesn't have a giant nuclear reactor in his chest. Actually, at the moment, I do not have a good core and power supply for the Jagger, but I think that in the future, when I disassemble the Merlin, its core will be perfect for this robot. For now, it's just a giant robot that can't even move. But when everything is ready, it will be an excellent combat Gundam. And one person can manage it. Only, I don't know why I did it. In fact, I don't even need it. Apparently, I succumbed to my boyish soul. What boy doesn't want a giant robot? That's right. None. It's a dream. Not wanting to leave the robot here, once again using the Jury Rig's power, I dismantled the Jagger into several parts so that it could be conveniently carried and then quickly reassembled. Having done this, I teleported it to my hangar in pieces that fit into my inventory. When the entire Jagger was in place, I became the Jury Rig again and fully assembled it again, and left it lying on the floor of the hangar. With samurai robots, I acted differently. Having completely freed up space in my inventory, I returned to Mars, where I put the robots in my spatial storage. 50 robots fit inside at once, therefore, in 10 teleportations, I transferred them all. For now, I've left them in stock. Then, I returned to Mars again and, turning into the Sandman, I destroyed the dome of sand. Shouldn't leave him. Returning to the base once again, I took all my things, after which I teleported to my family. Chapter 68, 67. Mask of Aook. I arrived just in time for everyone to wake up. No one asked me where I was, because everyone knows that usually early in the morning, I go about my business. And if it were something serious, I would immediately tell about it. And since I don't say anything, you don't have to worry. By this time, I was already hungry again, so together with everyone, we went to the nearest cafe, where we had breakfast with pleasure. Mexican food for breakfast is unusual but really delicious. I don't really like spicy food, but here it's also perfectly combined that there are no complaints. Having eaten our fill, we all got on the bus and drove on. In fact, Grandpa didn't have any plans to travel to Mexico. Basically, we'll just ride around the US border for a bit, visit a few more nearby cities, and drive back. It's all. Well, at least something. Since it was still a few hours to go to the next city, I decided to sleep. Even though I've replenished my mana from the vault, it's not the same as taking a full rest. Mental fatigue from continuous teleportation still remained, so I decided to get rid of it. After telling everyone that I wanted to get some rest, I went to bed. As soon as I lay down, I fell asleep almost immediately. I had a very strange dream. I dreamed of Las Vegas. There was the Keystone and Hex. And what is the strangest thing? I saw the Charmcaster. When I looked at her, my magic just raged all over my body. It is very strange. Of course, I know what will happen in Las Vegas, but I have never seen the Charmcaster live. And she was real in the dream. Not drawn, but really real. Like everyone else I've met in this world. But what confuses me the most is the reaction of my magic. As if my magic was drawn to the magic of the Charmcaster. Unclear. All questions and no answers. Well, nothing. Soon we will arrive in Las Vegas and I will find out everything. I hope so. Gwen woke me up for dinner. We did not have time to get to the city, but everyone already wanted to eat, so grandfather stopped in a desert area. There was nothing here. Only the road and the power line. And the desert. And it's all. However, the view here is beautiful. This time, Grandpa decided to cook another culinary masterpiece, namely fried beetles. In fact, it turned out even well. If you do not think that these are bugs. But, they are very cool crunchy. Gwen and Ashley quietly ate these bugs until they were told what they were. After that, they never touched them again. Here's how it happens. Although, I'd rather eat pizza than bugs, too. But who asks me? Just as breakfast was over, one of Grandpa's devices built into the bus beeped. Hearing this signal, Grandpa dropped all his playfulness and put on a super serious face. Pressing a button under the table, Grandfather brought up a monitor that showed images of an ugly stone mask. No, Grandfather said incredulously, looking at the monitor. He seems to have put on an even more serious face than before. Grandpa, what is it? Gwen asked when she saw the picture of the mask. Ancient mask of Aook. This is the key to the most powerful and destructive weapon that has ever existed. Grandpa said. Yeah, how? The most powerful and destructive. Sitting next to you is a 16-year-old boy with an Omnitrix. In my opinion, this is more terrible than some kind of sword that the ancient Indians made. Even if it was alien technology. We urgently need to go, said Max, and abruptly getting up from the table, went to the driver's seat. Sitting behind the wheel, Grandpa quickly started the engine and activated the map on the dashboard, drove to the place where this mask was stored. Since this is the case, I want to get rid of all the trouble. So I asked Morgana to hack every site on the internet that mentions the mask. According to the information that I found, this mask was found in Mexico near the border with Texas. The workers drilled the earth in search of oil, but instead of oil they found this mask. The mask itself was taken to the nearest museum. The funny thing is that this museum is 20 minutes away from us. So, I asked Morgana to change a few details. For example, the mask was found in Texas and taken to the Texas Museum. When all those who are looking for the mask realize that this information is fake, we will take it away a long time ago. To be honest, I don't want to meet the Eternal Knights. They are certainly weaklings, but they are worse than cockroaches. So, I want to postpone our official acquaintance as long as possible. Morgana completed my assignment in just a couple of minutes. And now you don't have to worry about your opponents. Of course, I know very well that this powerful and destructive weapon is complete bullshit, but Grandpa has been looking for this sword for 30 years. Let him see for himself the stupidity of his search. When I finished with all my business, Ashley finally could not contain her curiosity and asked, "So what is this weapon?" "Sacred weapon, sword of Uage." Plumbers searched for him, but did not find him. Grandpa said as he continued to drive the bus, following the map. "Ekahui? Is it an alien?" Gwen asked. "Not. He is an Indian. He was the Mayan god of war. According to legend, One blow of this sword could destroy an entire city. Max said. Wow. Ashley said, impressed. That's it. Therefore, we need to find this sword as soon as possible so that it does not fall into the wrong hands. The fate of all mankind depends on it. With obvious pathos, said Grandfather. At his words, I could only roll my eyes. The power of Alien X, capable of destroying all of reality, that's scary. And this sword is just a toothpick. In 10 minutes we were already at the museum. Although it can hardly be called a museum, it is more of a research center for the Mayan culture. A small building, almost in the middle of the desert. Stopping near the building, Grandfather said. They keep the mask in the basement. Lex, turn into an alien and get in there. And then open the door for us. Grandpa, you do realize that you are forcing your grandson to commit a burglary, don't you? I asked. It doesn't matter now. Grandpa snapped. Okay. But I will do everything myself. It's faster and safer that way. There is nothing else to substitute girls. I said unhappily. Turning into a ghost freak, I became invisible and intangible, and then flew into the building. Of course, I would like to check Big Chill now, but he leaves traces in the form of ice. It's better not to do that now. Once inside, I went through the floor and into the basement. It took me only a few seconds to find the safe where the mask is kept. Once near the safe, I put my hands inside, grabbed the mask and flew back. Back on the bus, I became myself and said, I have the mask. Let's get out of here quickly before anyone notices the loss. Grandpa listened to me right away and we quickly drove out of here. By the way, along the way, I noticed the car of the Forever Knights and inside was a Enoch. Wow. They work fast. Literally just 10 minutes late. It's also disinformation. Apparently they have a lot of their spies who found out the truth. Never mind. Enoch does not shine this time. We stopped only after 40 kilometers. As soon as the bus stopped, Grandpa immediately jumped out of his seat and snatched the mask from my hands. Mask of Aook. I've been looking for her for 30 years. Said Grandpa with abnormal obsession. That's what treasure hunts do to people. I didn't think my grandfather would fall for it. But apparently we are all imperfect. For the next 5 minutes, Max tried to find clues to the location of Sword of Uage. I got fed up with his attempts, so I said, give it to me. I took the mask and brought it up to my face. As soon as I looked at the green lenses of the mask, they shone and a beam of light appeared from the eyes, which created a hologram of the ancient Mayan temple. An explanation of how to get there immediately popped into my head. Conveniently. This is a map of the Uage Indian temple door. We need to go, said Grandfather and already wanted to get back behind the wheel, but I stopped him. Stop, Grandpa. It's 500 kilometers to get there. In addition, this temple is located in the middle of the jungle. Your bus won't get there. I said. Grandpa wanted to argue with me and protect his precious RV, but he didn't. Because he knows perfectly well that I'm right. And what should we do? Ashley asked. Use my Quinjet. I said, and putting the mask in my inventory, I got off the bus. Transforming into Upgrade, I took the form of a Quinjet. Although Gwen and Ashley had never seen him, they were too accustomed to my tricks, so they were not even surprised. Grandpa, now was not up to it. Before going out, he decided to put on his old plumber uniform. To be honest, he didn't look very good in it. Although, what's the difference? Activating the bus disguise mode, Grandpa boarded the Quinjet, along with the girls. When everyone was in their seats, I closed the door, activated the engine, and took off. It took us only half an hour to get to the temple. And it was not the maximum speed. I landed right next to the main entrance to the temple. Apparently, the temple is under some kind of camouflage field and the temple itself can only be seen by those who have seen the Mask of Aook in live. At the moment, it's us, a few workers and employees of that museum. And it's all. So, you cannot expect unexpected guests. This is good. Leaving the Quinjet, Grandpa immediately ran to the entrance and tried to open it. When the girls also came out, I became a man again and said, Grandpa, stop. The main entrance is one big trap. The real one is on the side. Taking out the mask, I brought it up to my face again and using the lenses I found the secret entrance. Opening the entrance, I took out my phone and turned on the flashlight. This was enough to light the way. Walking a little forward, we saw a huge cliff leading down. Looks like we're there, Ashley said. There's the stairs. Let's go down it, said Grandfather, pointing to a wooden staircase that did not inspire confidence. This staircase is hundreds of years old. You shouldn't follow it. Moreover, there, most likely, is full of traps. Let's do it differently, I said, and using telekinesis lifted myself, Gwen and Grandpa into the air. Ashley did it herself. Flying down, we quickly found a stone staircase. Having successfully landed, we all moved on together. Having reached the end, we saw a large door in front of which stood a pedestal. It's here, said Grandfather, taking the mask from my hands and placing it on the pedestal. As soon as the mask was in its rightful place, the doors opened and we saw the hall in which the sword was located. Here it is, the sacred sword of Uage, Grandfather said reverently and went to the sword. But, as soon as Max was close to the sword, the guard of this place jumped out in front of him. I was too lazy to fight and I just took out my sword, activated its laser edge and using telekinesis, slashed this guard with it. It looks like it was some kind of stone golem that works on magic. I'd love to have one, but I don't think I can. When the guard crumbled into pieces, Grandfather did not even thank me, and simply walked around the remains of the guard and went for the sword. Won't you stop him? Gwen asked. Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea to let him take that sword. He seems to be obsessed with it. I think something bad is about to happen, Ashley said. Do not worry. I have everything under control. Just watch, I said, relaxed. Grasping the hilt of the sword, Grandfather pulled it out of the pedestal. The sword itself shone a little, and then crumbled into pieces. Everything, as it was in the original, the sword did not stand the test of time. Well, good. So much better. But I was still ready. If the sword still had its power, I would immediately take it from Grandfather. And so, he can keep the handle in memory of 30 years of meaningless searches. Seeing what happened to the sword, Grandfather looked at us and saw our displeased faces. He seemed to understand how he had been behaving lately, and looked at us with deep regret. Finally it came to him. Well, it's good that it's over. Need to get out of here. Chapter 69, 68. Charmcaster. Third POV. Hex Castle. Bedroom of the Charmcaster. In a large room, on a 4-poster bed, lay a beautiful girl of 16 years. She had long hair, a very unusual color even for this world. She was a platinum blonde. Her eyes were pink, and the girl herself was short, only 165 centimeters. She had a very beautiful and sexy figure. Chest of the 3rd size, thin waist and gorgeous ass. It was the Charmcaster. She is a magician. Apprentice and niece of the famous sorcerer Hex. Her real name is Hope, but she gave it up. Also, she is the daughter of the former ruler of Ledger Domain. Her father was the one who ruled over this magical dimension before being killed by the dark sorcerer Adwaita, who took over Ledger Domain and now rules the place. The Charmcaster herself was born and raised in this beautiful dimension, but after the death of her father, she was forced to flee her home. Since then, she has been raised by Hex. And of course, he did it for a reason. Hope was a truly talented sorceress. Hex raised and trained her in order to take her powers in the future and become even more powerful. Of course, Hope didn't know about it. Although, she guesses that Hex is up to something nefarious. But, it was important for her to take revenge on Adwaita and return Ledger Domain. And this requires strength. And since Hex teaches her, she is grateful to him and does not notice his nefarious plans. Although, she does not mind spoiling him, because she does not have any warm feelings for him at all. Hex, on the other hand, uses Hope's thirst for revenge for his plans and raises her in his own image and likeness. Because of this, Hope grew up to be a power-hungry person. But she remembers her father's teachings very well and still tries to be a good person. She hasn't done anything really bad in her life, but if someone doesn't protect her from Hex, she'll change forever and no longer be the good girl she is at heart. Now, the Charmcaster was asleep and had a very strange dream. She dreamed of her Uncle Hex's plan. According to his plan, she must get Hex out of the prison, which he got into by some unknown means, and together with him find the Keystone. Charmcaster accidentally found an ancient scroll that described several spells from the Arcamida Book of Spells. How to find the Keystone and how to restore charms of bezels, which Hex thinks have been destroyed. Using a solar eclipse that will take place in Las Vegas and spells, Hex will be able to recreate charms and gain even more power. It was this plan that Hope was dreaming about now, at least part of it. She saw the Keystone, Las Vegas itself, and the eclipse, and how Hex tries to perform the ritual and restore the charms. She saw all this in her dream, before he appeared. Incredibly handsome guy, 16 years old. He had dark blue eyes and completely black hair. When Hope saw him, she involuntarily held her breath and couldn't take her eyes off him. But the strangest thing happened to her magic. It just raged through her body. And I was drawn to this guy. When Hope wanted to succumb to the dictates of her magic and approach the guy, she suddenly woke up. What was it? Hope asked herself when she woke up. Holding her head, she remembered the face of a guy she didn't know. Who was that? Hope asked herself again. Judging by the dream, Uncle's plan will succeed and he will be able to get the Keystone. That's good. Maybe I'll have a chance to take it. Most likely, I can see this handsome man there. And I can understand why I dreamed about him and why my magic reacts to him like that. Hope said. Getting up from her bed, Hope said to the void. In the meantime, we need to get my uncle out of jail. I wonder who defeated him and took all his things? But it was incredibly funny. And most importantly, this unknown made the staff of Ages useless for several weeks. It is worthy of respect. Saying all this, Hope dressed in her clothes, after which she went to breakfast, because she would need strength. Lex POV. Lex, Gwen, Ashley, forgive me. I don't know what came over me and why I behaved this way, Grandfather said, holding the hilt from the crumbling sword of Uage in his hands. Just at that moment, the ceiling began to shake. This is a sign that soon the entire ceiling will collapse right on our heads. We'll talk later. Now we need to get out of here before we are buried here, I said and turned into the two tails. Having wrapped one tail around the girls, and the second around Grandfather, I teleported to our bus. Still, I never stopped praising myself for breaking into the castle of the Eternal Knights and robbing them. Without it, I would never have such a useful alien. If there were no two tails, we would have to save our lives from the falling ceiling of the temple for a long time. And so, once and for all, we have already escaped and are near the RV. Having released the girls and Grandfather, I became a man again. Grandpa immediately turned off the camouflage field of the bus and went into it to take off his suit. We silently waited for him outside, because at first we wanted to talk to Grandfather. Leaving the bus, Grandpa looked at us with a guilty expression and said, "Excuse me. I acted very stupidly. By chasing a pig in a poke, I put you in danger. Grandfather, you scared us a lot with your behavior. You were like a crazy treasure hunter who would sacrifice everything for a treasure." Gwen said. "Yes, it was really creepy. Also, you made Lex commit a crime. But you are an adult and should take care of us. And certainly not to indulge in crime," said Ashley. "It's good that you realized your mistake. But you have no idea how much you could set us up," I said with a frown on my face. "What do you mean?" Grandpa asked. "Do you really think that only you knew about the mask and the sword? Using Morgana, I was able to throw off a few treasure hunters. If I didn't, we'd still be chased by all the bad guys. But that's not all. You didn't notice it, but we literally missed the Forever Knights. They may not be very serious opponents, but they are a headache," I said. "I didn't think about it," Grandfather said, clutching his head. "We understand how important this sword was to you. After all, you spent 30 years of your life trying to find him. But you acted differently than someone who wanted to hide the sword from dangerous individuals. More like someone who wants to use this sword," Gwen said. "Most likely, it was some kind of trap. After all, the sword just crumbled in your hands. Or was it a curse? It is unknown, and now it does not matter. But I honestly thought you were better than that. You are indeed a smart and strong person. But apparently, everyone can be lured into a trap. So just be careful and don't forget what's really important to you," I said. "Yes, Lex, you're right. Because of this sword, I forgot what is most important to me in this life. And it's not a sword, and it's not a bus. And you. Forgive me again. This won't happen again," said Grandfather and threw the hilt of the sword to the side. Hearing his words, we, with Ashley and Gwen, smiled. "It's all right, Grandpa," Gwen said. "We forgive you," Ashley continued. From our words, Grandpa just blossomed and rushed to hug us. It was a strong hug. Even too much. "Thank you. You are the best grandchildren in the world. In honor of this, ask what you want. I will fulfill everything," Grandpa said with a bright smile when he finally let us go. "Maybe we'll go to the beach. To the ocean," I said. "I would like." Agreed, obviously encouraged by the idea, Gwen. "That would be just great," Ashley said with a bright smile. "It's too far to go," Grandfather said sadly, shaking his head. "I can take us to the ocean. That will be even better. We'd better stay away from this place and the Eternal Knights looking for the sword," I said. "What about the bus?" Grandpa asked, glancing at his precious RV. "I have one idea. I can carry that too," I said with a smile. "Really?" "Yes. So let's not waste time. Get on the bus and wait. We'll be at the beach soon. I said. Everyone listened to me and got on the bus. I picked up the sword of Uage hilt and put it in my inventory. I want to check it out. Maybe I'll find out something interesting. After that, I activated my map and started looking for the perfect place to stay. Since we are currently in Mexico, I decided that Cancun would be a chic place for our vacation. Cancun is a resort with a beautiful beach in the south of Mexico. This is what we need now. It's a bit far, of course, but I can always take us back to the border. And this is a good chance to test the new alien. Finding the perfect place to teleport, I activated the teleport using the Tattoo of Infinity. It was a simple alley. Our bus can fit here and we won't arouse any suspicion. Back on the bus, I turned into Echo, which is absolutely no different from the original alien, except for a different eye color, and created 3 clones. Following my instructions, they first became human, after which, we all together became the Two Tails. As with Ditto, I have full control of the clones and have not noticed any deviations. The clones and I stood on different corners of the bus, after which, we lifted it off the ground and on the count of 3, we all teleported together to the Cancun lane. And everything worked. Everything is fine with the bus and there are no deviations. I tried to dispel the clones, as I usually do with Ditto, and everything worked out. And I noticed one surprise. I got the memories of all the clones. Unlike Ditto, who has a hive mind, and because of this we feel each other's pain, Echo is very similar to the shadow clone from Naruto. In Echo, clones can safely act separately and can be destroyed, and then the memory returns. In general, exactly the same, a shadow clone. Only Echo is small, weak and can attack with sound. Although he can still lift a couple of tons of weight. Being human again, I got on the bus and said, "We are in Cancun. You can go to the beach." Grandfather listened to me, started the bus and we went to the beach. The girls were incredibly happy. Chapter 69. Cancun. We quickly found a good 5-star hotel right next to the beach. Leaving the bus in the underground parking, we took our things and went to check into the hotel. We again rented our favorite type of room, with a living room and 2 bedrooms. This time, Grandfather paid for everything, because he wanted to pamper us and in this way atone for his guilt. I did not interfere with him, as it would be easier for him if he could appease us. As soon as Grandfather paid for the room, we immediately went there and left our things, changed into bathing suits, took towels and immediately ran to the beach. The beach was just wonderful. Golden sand, azure water, and most importantly, there were practically no people. It's weird, but we're better off. The infrastructure near the beach was also just great. There were also sun loungers and changing cabins. Also, there were different cafes all over the coastline, so we could always eat. But most importantly, it was full of all kinds of different water activities, in the form of surfing, wakeboarding, diving, and the like. Although the waves were not very suitable for surfing, this did not stop us from enjoying all these sports. The girls and I tried almost everything that was on the beach. But, unfortunately, the day ended too quickly and we had to return to the hotel. After dinner at the hotel, we returned to our room. By the way, the buffet in our hotel was just a masterpiece. We were all so hungry all day that we ate almost half of everything that was offered. Everything was delicious. Entering the room, we all immediately relaxed and finally realized how tired we were today. I was more cheerful than everyone, but not by much. It's been a very long day today. We were all only strong enough to take turns showering and falling asleep in our beds. I was standing on the roof of a skyscraper in the middle of Las Vegas. A solar eclipse began in the sky, and on a neighboring higher building, Heck stood holding the Keystone in his hands. All this seemed to stop in time and absolutely nothing moved. Ignoring my surroundings, I looked ahead. In front of me stood a 16-year-old girl in a crimson cloak. It was the Charmcaster. She also looked at me very carefully. I would even say considered. And so intently, as if she wanted to remember all the details. Finally, after a few minutes of staring, the witch came to her senses and asked, "Who are you?" "My name is Lex." I replied. "Lex then. And what are you doing here?" The Charmcaster asked, looking into my eyes. "It's like my dream." So, counter question. "Who are you and what are you doing in my dream?" I said. "Oh yes. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Charmcaster," said the Charmcaster, with slight pride in her voice. "Seriously? Is your name Charmcaster? Who called you that?" I asked doubtfully. Hearing me, the Charmcaster blushed visibly and muttered something. "I'm sorry, what? I didn't hear you." I said, putting my hand to my ear. My real name is Hope. Hope said more loudly. Hope. Hope. Beautiful name. With a smile, I said. Wow, she blushed even more. As sometimes happens just with girls. It seems that he told the truth, but she has already melted all over. To dispel this awkward atmosphere, I said. So what are you doing in my dream? After hearing my question, Hope finally came to her senses and said, actually, this is also my dream. So this is some kind of shared dream. For two? I asked, tilting my head. Apparently. Hope said thoughtfully. And why is this happening? Why with us? I asked. I'm not sure. Something familiar. Somewhere I heard about it. Hope bit her lip thoughtfully. Uncle Hex? Are you that Skullface's niece? I asked, pretending not to know about it. Skullface? Good said. Hope said with a laugh. After a bit of laughter, Hope finally calmed down and asked. So, you know my uncle? I met him once. He broke into the museum I was in. I said casually. To the museum? So you beat him up and took all his stuff? Hope asked in shock. He ruined my excursion. I said unhappily. Oh, I have to thank you for that. It was incredibly funny. Hope said contentedly. I see you don't have a good relationship. I said. He is my magic teacher, and I am grateful to him for that. But I don't really like him. Too much force hit him in the head. It should have been dropped from heaven long ago. In all seriousness, Hope said. Very wise and mature words. I said in surprise. That's how my father taught me. With power comes responsibility. And there are always bigger fish. Under no circumstances should you lose yourself. With a sad smile, said the Charmcaster. Looks like your father raised you well. With a smile, I said. Hope was clearly pleased with my words, but since this is a sore subject for her, she decided to change the direction of the conversation. And what did you do with the Staff of Ages? Hope asked. I was sorry to break it, but I couldn't leave the staff like that, because Hex would have escaped. So I just absorbed all the staff's magic. I said with a smile. So are you a magician? And what does absorbed mean? How did you do this? I've never heard magicians do that. Hope bombarded me with questions. I'm not really a magician. I'm just learning. I know, just a couple of spells. And I was able to do so, only because of my Anodite heritage. I said. Anodite? Something familiar, but I'm not sure. Hope said thoughtfully. They are such a magical race. My grandmother was an Anodite, so I'm trying to develop this gift. I said. Yes? And how it turns out? Hope asked curiously. Here. I said and made a magical construct in the form of a rosebud, threw it to Hope. Hope caught the bud and looked at it carefully. After a couple of seconds, she exclaimed. It's a magical construct. I have never seen such a perfect design. You have almost perfect control. Well, if you say so. As I said, it is with ordinary magic that I have problems. I only know a few spells and that's it. It's not easy to find books on real magic. With a smile, I said. But it's still amazing. Before Hope could continue, our magical energy behaved very strangely. Our bodies began to emit mana. Mine was blue and Hope was pink. What's happening? I asked. Our magic reacts to each other. It's like she wants us to be around. Hope said and walked over to me. When we were a step away from each other, the magic raged even more and I woke up. Hope POV. I woke up abruptly. Now I was in a hotel room in Las Vegas. The plan is to get my uncle out of jail on the day of the solar eclipse. That's why I arrived here early. Remembering my dream, I thought about Lex. All this is very strange. Why do we meet in a dream and our magic reacts this way? While there is time, I should look for this whole situation in books. Yes, that's a good idea. But still, Lex is a very nice guy. I've only seen him a couple of times, and then in my dreams, but I already want to see him again. Especially live. I really enjoyed talking to him. Also, he said he liked my name. I haven't been in such a good mood for a long time. I feel so uplifted. Is it because of Lex? Does that mean I like him? Does he like me? He has a girlfriend? Maybe we can start dating? Blushing at the thought, I shook my head and pushed those thoughts away. Now it doesn't matter. Getting out of bed, I was about to go to my things, when I noticed that something had fallen on the floor. Looking down at the floor, I saw the rosebud that Lex had created for me with his magic. I wonder how he got here. Picking it up, I pressed the magic construct to my chest and with a huge smile, humming a song to myself, I went to get dressed. I need to look information about anodites. July 11th, 2010. When I woke up, I sat on my bed and thinking about my dream. Something strange is happening. Never heard of this happening in the original cartoon. The problem is, I have no way of knowing why this is happening. I'll have to rely on hope for that. By the way, why did she say her name so simply? She doesn't like to mention him. Another oddity. It's okay, we're leaving tomorrow, and in theory, I can meet with Hope in person, the day after tomorrow. While I was scrolling through all these thoughts in my head, my phone rang. Taking the phone in hand, I looked who was calling me. The number was unknown to me, so I asked Morgana. Morgana, who's calling me? Call source is in Venezuela. Apparently, this is your familiar thief. Shadow? What he needs? I asked myself. After putting on a suit so that the shadow would not hear my real voice, I picked up the phone and said, I'm listening. Legion? This is Shadow. You said to call if information about something dangerous comes up. So, recently they found a certain mask of Aook. With its help, you can find the sword of Uage, which, according to legend, is able to destroy the city with one blow. The thief said, I know about the mask and the sword. In fact, I've already dealt with it. You don't have to worry. I said, trying to hold back a yawn. Is that how? You are acting fast. And how? It's true? Is the sword really that powerful? Shadow asked curiously. Not. Maybe once he was such, but after so much time, he just crumbled to pieces. Didn't stand the test of time. I said honestly. It's clear. Well, then I won't bother you anymore. I'll call you when there's new information of interest to you. Shadow said. Even though it wasn't needed anymore, thanks for the warning. If you need help, call too. Good luck in Venezuela. I said, and before Lee could say anything, I had already hung up. It was already almost 4 in the morning. I didn't get much sleep, but I can already get up and go about my business. Then I'll sleep on the bus. Chapter 71. 70. Dagger of Uage. Getting out of bed, I put on clean clothes and teleported to New York. I bought coffee and cake again, after which I went to the moon. I enjoyed having breakfast on the moon so much that I decided to make it a tradition. At least when there is time, I will always have breakfast on the satellite. Half an hour later, when the food was over, I decided to conduct one experiment. I had an idea for a long time how to slightly increase the amount of mana in my body. My plan is to first fill my body's reserve to 100%, then use the mana from the Infinity Tattoo storage to add mana beyond the reserve. This is supposed to increase my body's natural mana reserve. I hope so. Having replenished the reserve to the full, I began to add mana to the body a little bit. When it reached 101%, I still didn't feel anything. At 102%, it felt like my body was slightly puffed up. True, there were no physical changes. But it did not cause any discomfort and could be tolerated. At 103%, this feeling increased, but there were no other changes. At 104%, an unpleasant itch appeared all over the body. The feeling was disgusting, but tolerable. And finally, at 105%, this itch became absolutely unbearable. I could hardly bear not to scratch. Although it is not clear what to scratch. I decided not to add more mana. That's enough for the first try. Moreover, I can only make things worse out of ignorance. For the next hour and a half, I sat cross-legged in the lotus position and raced mana all over my body to get used to the increased amount of magic in my body. For the first half an hour I had to endure this disgusting itch, but then it began to pass and I felt better. After another half an hour, all the side effects disappeared and it seems that I began to adapt. And finally, I was able to do it. I increased the amount of mana in my body by as much as 5%. Now the former 105% has become just 100%. It's great. And most importantly, neither the density, nor the concentration, nor the control of mana decreased at all. Perhaps the density has become even more, but I'm not sure. But I will not do this very often, after all. This is a very unpleasant feeling. I need to give my body time to get used to it. The biggest disadvantage of this method is that I will not be able to fill my mana storage for the next 24 hours, because I can lose everything that I have achieved in these 2 hours. In addition, magic should not be used for the next 5 hours either. This is the problem. Perhaps it only works because of my special body, which is able to adapt to all unusual conditions. But even this body needs time, so I will use this method only once a week. Perhaps in the future, I will be able to increase the amount of mana not by 5%, but by more. But this is over time. Having finished with the experiment, I teleported to my cave. I wanted to check what was left of the sword of Uage. Arriving at the laboratory, I took out the handle of the sword and carefully examined it. The handle itself is stylized as some kind of snake or possibly a lizard. In appearance, the handle is made of what kind of wood, but it feels like it is clearly metal, of unknown origin. Instead of eyes, let's say, after all, snake, there are 2 gems similar to rubies, but it is unlikely that they are. Also, there is a pattern of gold color all over the handle. The snake's mouth is also painted gold. This is all that can be seen from the outside, so I tried to use X-ray vision to see what was inside, but suddenly broke off. I can't see through the material the handle is made of. This happens to me for the first time. This sword is most likely of technological production, so I turned into an upgrade and tried to soak into the hilt. And broke down again. As I thought, this sword is a mixture of magic and technology, just like my spatial storage. The upgrade is not able to soak into such magic technologies. I already tried, but it didn't work. It's beyond his ability. Therefore, I was never able to reproduce the same inventory as mine. Maybe in technology one understand well, but in magic I am, so far, a complete zero. Well, we are all not perfect. Since it's really related to magic, I can do my favorite trick and pump up this hilt with my mana. Maybe something will come out of this. Unfortunately, I shouldn't use my magical energy at the moment, but I can always use the reserve from storage. Taking the hilt of the sword in my hand, I began to feed my mana from the storage into it. So, I will not lose my progress, but I will be able to learn something about this sword. Half an hour later, when the hilt had soaked up about a quarter of what was in storage, it finally began to respond. First, all the gold patterns changed color to blue like my magic. After that, a blue-colored energy blade began to appear from the handle. The blade itself was only 40 centimeters, so it was more of a dagger than a sword. I was right. The energy source of the dagger is magic, and apparently all the time that it was kept in the Mayan temple, it worked on the previously accumulated power. I can't imagine how much energy there was in the dagger before, if for so many millennia it could maintain its shape until it crumbled in grandfather's hands. I decided to test my new dagger, but since it is said that a single blow of it can destroy an entire city, I decided not to risk my base and teleported to Mars. Finding a good target, I tightened my grip on the dagger and swung it. The dagger shone blue, after which, a meter-long blue slash escaped from the blade. Slash flew several meters, then crashed into a rock and completely destroyed it. Pretty powerful, but not like in the legends. Maybe it's just not enough energy. Well, I'll find out about it in the future. By the way, as soon as I released the slash, some information about this dagger came to my mind. However, I love all things magical. Always all the information comes immediately to the head. By the way, as soon as I released the slash, some information about this dagger came to my mind. However, I love all things magical. Always all the information comes immediately to the head. In general, this dagger is able to cut through everything magical. The sword that I created before is not capable of cutting through my magic constructs, only destroying it with bare force, and this despite the laser edge. And this dagger can cut everything, absolutely everything, magical. At least what works on mana. In addition, he himself is very sharp and can easily cut through many things. The same big tick this dagger would cut without problems. And that's not counting the power of the slash. The slash itself can cut through an entire building. True, this is in the future, when the dagger gets used to me and absorbs more mana. And the best thing is, from now on, this dagger belongs only to me. Only I can use it, and only in my hands will it work. Even if it was stolen, it will be able to return to me. It's not really clear how. In fact, this dagger is very dangerous in my hands. After all, I studied knife fighting and I know how to use just such a dagger. And if I use aliens who have a physique close to me, like the Osmosian for example, then the dagger will become even more dangerous. For example, the same fast track. He is strong, agile, flexible, and most importantly very fast. With a combination of fast track and a dagger, I can become incredibly deadly. This is what I decided to check. Turning into fast track, the first thing I did was carefully examine myself. Surprisingly, I was very different from Ben's fast track. Firstly, I was 2 meters and the figure was quite powerful, like a swimmer. Even more powerful than mine. Ben's fast track was lower and his figure was frail. In fact, my alien no longer looks like Ben's fast track, but Ben's 23 fast cat. But again, mine is clearly stronger. The arms also have spikes similar to Batman's and they are quite sharp. They are light blue. There are some on the legs too. The main body of fast track itself is blue and I am wearing only black shorts. On the chest there is wool of light blue color. It also has a not very long tail. Taking the dagger in a reverse grip, I began to use my fast-track abilities to the fullest, along with my knife-fighting skills. As I predicted, it was powerful and deadly. I really liked this combination, so I will try to use it more often in the future somehow. I spent another hour on Mars, after which I teleported to the hotel. Everyone was already awake, so we took our things and left them on the bus. After that, we had breakfast at the hotel and again returned to the beach. By common agreement, we will stay on the beach until 6 in the evening, after which I will return us to the border and we will return to the USA and continue travel to Las Vegas. So we did, but the girls got a little carried away and we were able to return to the bus only at 7 in the evening. With the help of the map, I found the perfect place to teleport, near the city of Mexicali. Unfortunately, you can't teleport directly to the USA, otherwise there will be a lot of uncomfortable questions for us. So, using Echo, I created clones and together we teleported the RV. Once near the border, I returned to the bus. Grandpa started it and we went to Las Vegas, where we arrived at midnight. Quickly finding a good hotel, we rented our favorite room and immediately went to bed. I wonder if our shared dream with Hope will repeat again today. Chapter 72, 71. Planning opening my eyes, I found myself back on the roof of the skyscraper. This place seems to be close to my hotel. In general, the whole scene from yesterday's dream was repeated. The same beginning eclipse, the same hex with the keystone, on the neighboring building. And Hope is standing in front of me. The only difference was that Hope used to be about 10 paces away from me. Now she's 6 paces away. I wonder if there is some hidden meaning in this? Seeing me, Hope just exploded with embarrassment and her whole face turned bright red. It feels like a little more and steam will go out of her head. Hope? I asked, looking at her with a questioning expression on my face. Hope squeaked, while looking into my eyes for a few seconds, after which she turned away even more embarrassed. Are you okay? I asked again. Apparently, Hope finally realized how strange her behavior seemed, as she clenched her fists, after which she panted heavily and seemed to come to her senses. Finally, when she managed to control herself, she said, Yes. I'm fine, Lex. Do not worry. I decided not to pay attention to her behavior for the time being, so I first asked the question that worried me. So, did you find out why you and I share a dream? Upon hearing my question, Hope returned to her embarrassed state and blushed again. I have to give her credit. She recovered quite quickly this time. Yes. I found out. Hope said softly. And? I raised an eyebrow in anticipation of an answer. I can't tell you about it now. Only when we meet in reality. The only thing I can tell you is that all these dreams are preparations for our meeting. Hope said, calming down again. And the reason why you're acting so strange right now is because of what's going to happen when we meet? I asked, considering her words and behavior. Looks like I got to the point. Hope again went into the astral from embarrassment and seems to be even going to faint. To save the situation and somehow come to the point, I continued the conversation. So let's meet right now. I'm already in Las Vegas, in that hotel over there. I said, pointing at the hotel building. I can't now. I am in the desert and on my uncle's orders, I must help him escape from prison in a few hours. Hope said. Wow, she smells so sad and unwilling. Strange combination. So, you want to help Hex? I asked, frowning slightly. No. In fact, I don't want it at all. In my opinion, it would be better if he rotted there. But I don't have a choice. Hope said, waving her arms vigorously. Listen, I understand that he is your uncle and you are grateful to him for teaching, but you should not do this. Even if you think it's your duty, Hex doesn't deserve it. In a soothing tone, I said. I don't care about him. I would have run away from Hex a long time ago. After all, he can teach me nothing more. At least he stopped teaching me a year ago. He doesn't reveal his secrets to me. But I can't leave. Hope said, with anger in her voice. Why? I asked, tilting my head to the side. Nothing like that. I don't remember from the cartoon. When I was 12, in order to keep me under some kind of control, my uncle performed a ritual and tied my magic to one locket. Using this locket, he can always find me or, worst of all, take away my magic. Maybe not forever, but for years to come. For me, it's worse than death. Hope said, clutching the sleeves of her robe angrily. It certainly wasn't in the original. But it's perfectly acceptable. For example, after this story with the Keystone, when Hex lost most of his powers, Hope could return this locket. Sounds logical. Once again I am convinced that the cartoon is one thing, and the reality is completely different. Much could not be described or softened for children. Like now. And of course, this locket is in Hex's hands now. I said as I thought about the whole situation. Yes. Also, he has something that I need. The key to the safe. Of course, this safe is magical and this key is needed to open it. It won't work otherwise. Shaking her head, the Charmcaster said. And what do you want in this safe? I asked. There are things that belong to my parents. This is all that's left of them, and my uncle has locked them in a safe and won't let me even see them. With a snarl, Hope said. So, using the locket and your parents' things, Hex controls you and keeps you with him so that in the right situations, you help him. I concluded. Right. Hope nodded her head several times. And what does he want from you this time, besides the obvious help in escaping? I asked. Do you know what a keystone is? Hope asked. Apparently she decided that first she should find out the level of my awareness. The keystone was created by Bezel. The stone itself is able to increase the user's natural characteristics 10 times. And in conjunction with Bezel's charms, dozens of times. Also, using the keystone, you can recreate the charms themselves if they were destroyed. In this case, you need a solar eclipse and the highest point of the area. In general, what is happening around us? I said, swiping my hand to show the picture that was frozen, right next to us. When she heard me, Hope opened her eyes wide and even slightly parted her mouth. Apparently, I did not expect that I knew so much. After a few seconds, Hope came to her senses and said in amazement. Amazing level of awareness. I thought you said you were new to magic. This information is not easy to find. The Arcamida Book of Spells is now in my possession. With a sly smirk I said. So you took her? Will you let me read it? Hope asked with delight in her voice. Maybe later. Now, let's get back to our business. I said, trying to get the girl back on topic. What? Oh yes, you're right. So, as you probably understood, Hex wants me to help him escape from prison, after which, with the help of spells written out from the Arcamida book, which I accidentally found from one junk dealer, first find the keystone, and only then with his help and ritual to restore Bezel's charms you destroyed. Using them, Hex gains even more power. Hope said solemnly. She clearly knows how to escalate the situation. And yourself, why didn't you try to find this stone? I asked. Clearly embarrassed, Hope replied. I tried. But I didn't have enough magical powers to find it. I could only find out that he was in Nevada. And that's it. But this, just, converged with the uncle's plans, because he is in prison, not far from Las Vegas. I arrived here a few days ago to prepare and help him escape. And now, in a few hours, the escape should take place. Hope said. It's clear. And what's your plan? I asked after a couple of seconds, carefully considering her words. In terms of? Hope tilted her head sweetly. I mean, what would you like to do after getting Hex out? I understand that you certainly do not want the person who actually keeps you on a leash to receive powerful powers. Looking into Hope's eyes, I said. Hope gave me a bright smile and then said, You understood me well. You're right. In general, I would have gladly gone far away from him, as soon as I pulled him out, but most likely, Hex would not let me leave and drag me with him. According to the plan, I wanted to prevent the ritual from ending. This would hurt Hex very much and he would catch a backlash. This often happens in magic. If it didn't work, I would try to steal the amulets and fight my uncle. But how do you understand too many, if? But, I drawled. But you showed up, Lex. I know that you are strong. Most likely very much, since he defeated his uncle almost instantly. And I'm asking for your help. Help me defeat Hex and take the locket and key from him. With the eyes of a cat from Shrek, Hope said. Suddenly. I didn't think you'd ask for my help. We don't even really know each other. Thoughtfully, I said. You are the only one I can trust. After all, you are special. For me. With flushed cheeks, Hope said. Does your trust have something to do with all these dreams and this situation? I asked with narrowed eyes. Hope didn't answer. But she blushed a little more and nodded her head several times. Phew. Okay. How can I refuse such a beauty who trusted me? I said, letting out a sigh and rubbing the bridge of my nose. At the compliment, Hope blushed bright red again. God, she's on the verge of fainting again. I never thought that someone like the Charmcaster could behave like this. But she's still a girl, what else to expect? Discarding unnecessary thoughts, I made a sly grin and said, But, do you really think that the one who had the Arcamida book in his hands for a whole month, in which all possible information is written, including about the keystone, did not take care of it a long time ago? When she heard me, Hope quickly raised her head down in embarrassment and looked into my eyes and asked, "So have you taken the keystone yet? What about a detection spell? The stone has been hidden in another space for a long time. In the same place is a fake. And your spell found only a residual trace." With a smart look, I said, "Actually, of course, I haven't taken the keystone yet. I plan to do this when I wake up. But Hope doesn't need to know that. It's not that I don't trust her or think she's cheating on me. Although we only talked twice, I already managed to understand and get to know her enough. In addition, telepathy in this dream, oddly enough, works great. I didn't read her mind completely. Only superficial and checked whether she was lying to me or not. Everything Hope said is true. And she was completely honest with me. In all our conversations, she never lied to me. The only thing that puzzles me is that with the help of telepathy, I was never able to find out about this whole dream situation. All I've learned is that our magic is involved. This is what I understood myself. And the reason why I lied about the keystone is pretty trivial. I just wanted to look cooler. I have to show off in front of the beauty. In truth, in fact, I almost forgot about this pebble. Lately I've been more interested in my new dagger. But it is not important. This is good. So Hex won't succeed. What about the locket? Hope said thoughtfully. Follow Hex's plan. When you wake up, help Hex escape and accompany him. When he comes for a fake, he will most likely again do everything noisily and attract attention. The city will quickly stop him. I have heard that the Legion have arrived in the city. Hex won't be free for long. With a smile, I said. Legion, Hope muttered, then her eyes widened and she looked at me in shock. But before Hope could say anything, I continued. But one detail needs to be changed. Before entering the prison, you should disguise yourself. You shouldn't show your face. No matter how powerful you are, you can always be caught. A great example, the same Hex, who has been in prison for a month and is not able to escape without your help. But it was you who defeated him. He's in jail because of you. Hope said, pointing her finger at me. This is true. But you still don't need the government to know about you. Just extra problems. I said. You're right. Okay, I'll disguise myself. Is there anything else? Hope asked. Not. Just try to keep Hex from causing unnecessary destruction and self-mutilation, please. We don't need this. Thoughtfully, I added. Okay, I'll try, but I can't promise anything. Hope said with a smile. When I heard her, I could only roll my eyes. She pretends to be a bad girl, but she herself behaves like a modest girl. Women. I wanted to ask, did you really destroy Bezel's charms? Hex is sure it is, but is it true? Hope asked after a while. I didn't answer. He just rolled my eyes and smiled. Hope didn't seem to be satisfied with my silence, so she was about to ask more questions. But suddenly, our magic went berserk again. Looks like we'll wake up soon. Hope decided not to waste her time. She ran up to me and kissed me on the lips. I did not even have time to enjoy her lips, as the world around collapsed and I opened my eyes already in a Las Vegas hotel. Chapter 73, 72. Prison Break. July 12, 2010. When I woke up in my hotel bed, I looked around. Judging by the clock, it was already 5 in the morning. I need to get up and go for the Keystone. Well, I should have done this a few weeks ago, but I was too lazy, and there was not enough time. But still, this is a pretty serious omission. I rely too much on knowing the canon. The identity of the Charmcaster, the locket that Hex uses to blackmail her, and our shared dreams with Hope, another proof that everything can go wrong. Reality is completely unpredictable. And I can't be prepared for everything. I should stop relying on canon. On the contrary, I need to use it and act in advance. Moreover, I constantly change history with my actions. Although, I'm trying to keep the canon. For now. But like I said, reality is unpredictable. In the original, Hex was defeated by Gwen and it was because of her that he ended up in jail. But in my world, everything happened differently. I quickly knocked him out, robbed him and the police took him away. In principle, he could have run away earlier and taken the stone. And he could never find it, because the book of spells is my hands. In fact, I am very lucky that Hope found the right spells and everything goes almost according to the canon. This is most likely due to the tattoo of luck. Or maybe because of something else. Who knows? But it's a good lesson for me. I must not be lazy and act in advance. In the end, I don't worry. Even if Hex had the keystone and charms, I would still easily defeat him. But these are unnecessary problems. It will be easier to do everything in advance, and then relax. Actually, I could just not let Hope help Hex. Find him in prison and take the medallion. But that would be completely boring. I need to be careful and ready for anything, but not too much. Otherwise life will be boring. Yes, and I need to show off in front of the girl. Well, stop wasting time on philosophizing. It's time to move forward. Dressed in a new shirt, I did all the necessary morning routines and using my infinity tattoo, I teleported to a place chosen with the help of a map in the desert near the city. To find the Keystone, I need use a special spell. I remember him from the Arcamada book. Long live eidetic memory. But, as always, everything is not so simple. I need to read the spell over an open fire. Bonfire, that is. That is why I had to come to the desert. Transforming into Heat Blast, I threw a fireball at the ground. I was frankly too lazy to look for firewood, so I found a place where there was at least some grass. I don't need a fire for a long time, so this weed will do. The grass caught fire and turned into a small fire, from which smoke poured into the sky. As a man, I sang. Dark Era Deroshan Agosto. Bezel's Keystone. Reveal your location. My spell worked and the fire flared up for a moment with renewed vigor. After that, the location of the Keystone appeared in the smoke. The stone is now located in a residential area of Las Vegas, in one small one-story house, of which there are a huge number in this area. As far as I remember, Gwen found the Keystone at the Wizards Convention in this city. Of course, there were no real wizards there. Only conjurer, fake mediums and sellers of magical fakes. This is Las Vegas. What else to expect from this city? So, Gwen bought a bracelet from one of the saleswomen. The saleswoman herself was either a gypsy, or simply mowed down under her. Apparently, this woman lives in this house. It is to this bracelet that the Keystone is now attached. So that's what I need. Transforming into Water Hazard, which was no different from Ben's Water Hazard except for a slightly different color scheme, I put out the fire. Using my map, I plotted a route to the saleswoman's house, and then transforming into Jet Ray, I flew to my destination following the navigator. What I needed was not very far away, so, with the speed of the Jet Ray, I was in place in 2 minutes. Flying up to the gypsy's house, I used my supervision and found the bracelet. All the trinkets that the gypsy was going to sell at tomorrow's, or rather today's, convention were in the garage. The bracelet was there. Turning into a ghost freak, I became intangible and flew into the garage. By the way, Zs'Scare has begun to swarm again. Looks like his escape plan will start soon. Well, I have one spell, especially for him. Infiltrating the garage, I used telekinesis and summoned a bracelet into my hand. I removed the Keystone from the bracelet and placed it in the spatial storage. Let him stay there for a while. It's safer that way. Now, I need to make a fake. Turning into the Sandman, I took one of the bricks that was in the garage. How fortunate that it was the right color. Thanks, Tattoo of Luck. Using the power of this alien, I turned the brick into sand. Then I shaped this sand into the shape of a keystone. After compressing the sand to make it better, I was pleased with the result. It turned out very similar. At first, won't even know it's a fake. But if look closely, can understand that this is a fake, because there is no magic in it. But first need to get to it. Transforming into a human, I inserted the false stone into the slot in the bracelet and replaced it. The spell will point to this particular bracelet, because it is saturated with the residual energy of the keystone. And the location of the present, it will not show. After all, this is a different space. The spell is not that powerful. Transforming into the Two Tails, I teleported to the living room of the room. It was still only 6 in the morning, but I didn't want to do anything. Today I don't want to go to the moon. So I decided to just watch TV. Moreover, Grandpa will wake up soon. Hope POV. When I woke up, I looked around. Now, I was in my room, in a small hotel almost in the middle of the desert, 200 kilometers from Las Vegas. Remembering my dream, I blushed very much. I still dared to kiss him. And I'm happy, but I'm embarrassed. I hope he liked it. But he will not run away from me anywhere, because thanks to these dreams, we will soon become very close. I wonder how he will react when he finds out the reasons for the appearance of these dreams for two. I really want to see his reaction. Hope it will be positive. But now is not up to it. We need to start implementing the plan. I hope Lex can stop my uncle. In fact, I felt relieved when I found out that Hex would not succeed. Yes, it will be much better. Getting out of bed, I followed Lex's advice and disguised myself. Instead of my favorite crimson cloak, I wore a black long cloak with a deep hood. It will cover my face and hair. Pants and shoes were also in dark colors. It turned out very well. It is unlikely that they will recognize me, but my magic bag stands out very much. Well, there's nothing to be done. Without this I'm like without hands. Leaving the hotel, I went to jail. This town was specially created next to this prison, for workers. So, it turned out very convenient. But it took me 2 weeks to find this place. This is a secret government prison. All sorts of weirdos are put here, like my uncle. 20 minutes later, I was standing in front of the entrance to the prison. Using spells, I knocked down the door and went inside. A siren sounded throughout the prison, signaling an attack. Guards with guns appeared in front of me. I took out a magic bomb from my bag and threw it towards the guards. One such bomb knocked out several guards at once, and I was able to go further. 10 bombs later, and about 30 guards who were now knocked out, I walked up to the cell where my uncle was sitting. Looking through the small bars inside, I saw Hex sitting with his back to the door and apparently meditating. Phalum Corca Dominican. I read a spell that blew the door off its hinges and I was able to go inside. Charmcaster, how long have I been waiting for you? Uncle said. Well, of course, for a long time. I wouldn't even come here if I could. But instead I said, Uncle, it took time to organize your escape from prison. Treat me with respect, niece. Otherwise, you won't get well. Hex said. Bastard. I'm pulling you out of jail, and you're threatening me. Where is the thank you? But then again, instead, I said, all right, Uncle. What is this masquerade? Why do you need this coat? Hex finally turned around and saw me. Who would say he himself is dressed as for Halloween? I just decided to change my image. I said what first came to my mind. It doesn't matter, dress how you want. And now the staff. Hex ordered. Rolling my eyes at his behavior, I took out the Staff of Ages from my bag. Looks like whoever caught you did something to the staff. It has almost no power. I swear it's not my fault. I said, passing the staff to my uncle. At my words, Hex only snorted contemptuously and said, once the staff is in the hands of its owner, all its strength will immediately return to it. But taking the staff in his hands, Hex widened his eyes and said in amazement, you're right. The staff has only half the energy. For this, I will also avenge. Pointing his staff at me, he fired a beam of yellow energy straight at me. I didn't have time to do anything. I just tried to defend myself with my hands. But before reaching me, the beam split into 2 and attacked, thereby knocking out 2 guards who were trying to sneak up behind. Now, we need to find the Keystone. An important moment is approaching, Uncle said, after which another beam broke through the wall so that we could get out. When I finish the ritual and regain my power, I will take revenge on the Legion who put me behind bars and destroyed my charms. Hex said as he cast a spell on the door to make it fly. The door flew up. I stood on it next to my uncle and flying through the hole, we flew away from the prison. After a couple of minutes of flight, I asked. So, the one who caught you was the Legion? Yes. I'm absolutely sure it's him. I personally saw one of his disguises. Red-skinned 4-armed monster. Apparently, then he was just beginning to be a hero and I was not lucky to run into him. Hex said, with malice in his voice. Apparently he's been following the Legion ever since. Well, yes, his cell was full of articles about the Legion. Uncle vengeful, as always. Bad luck, Uncle. You will meet him again soon. After about 30 kilometers, we stopped to perform a ritual to find the Keystone. I had to make a fire for this. You see, for such a powerful magician as Hex, this is below his dignity. Completely freaked out. Well, nothing. I have to endure you not much at all. But even that time passes excruciatingly slowly for me. Dark Era Deroshan Agosto. Bezel's Keystone, reveal your location. Uncle said. The fire flared up and revealed the location of the Keystone. More precisely, his fakes, according to Lex. As I thought, he is in Las Vegas. Where else? What? It was a pleasure to see you. But it's time for me to go. I said and tried to run away. Hex fired a beam right at my feet to stop me and said, you can leave only when I give you permission. All right, Uncle. I said, bowing my head. Well, it was worth trying. Although I didn't really expect to be able to escape. Now I have to be with him to the end. After extinguishing the fire, we again stood on the door and flew into the city. Unfortunately, the door did not fly very fast. We will arrive at the place only by 9 o'clock in the morning. I want to see Lex as soon as possible. Chapter 74. 73. Convention. Since I had time, I started replenishing my mana storage again. Moreover, When restoring the dagger of Uage, I spent a lot of money. This time, I did it a little differently. I realized that I did a little wrong last time, when I left 70%. It didn't make sense. Well, we all make mistakes. This time, I left 99% mana in my body. And all the mana that was regenerated was sent to the storage. And so constantly. As for increasing my reserve, I will deal only after the story with Zs'Scare. I don't want to take any more risks. When I finished, I went back to watching local television. Grandpa woke up half an hour later. Since there was nothing to do, Max ordered breakfast with coffee in the room and joined me. The coffee, by the way, was disgusting. The TV was talking about the shadow again. Last night he stole another treasure in Caracas. Everything was, as always, got inside, took the value, left a note and dumped into the shadows, in the literal sense. This time, it was not a museum, but the home of a rather influential Venezuelan general. Apparently, his private collection was not quite clean, since the shadow visited him. This time, not only the police were there, but also the private army. The general did not stint, and hired pretty cool guys. But all, again, in vain. It is unlikely that ordinary people, even if they are professional soldiers, will ever be able to catch the shadow. Shadow's next target, by the way, is in Mumbai. Another rich man and his private collection. Well, he has a week to say goodbye to his treasure. There was nothing else interesting on TV. Television in this world is also not very well developed. What can I say about the series? I feel sorry for the local people. They will never understand what a really good series is. But I'm too lazy to change anything, so it remains only to feel sorry for them. Although, there were some good and even original talk shows here, but I'm not a fan of this. And here is Grandpa, an ardent fan of the local opera. In the past, I have several times caught him watching TV with tears in his eyes. What a spectacle, I tell you. Here is the legendary hero of space. I never want to see this again. Before the girls woke up, I decided to check the internet on the topic of the Legion. There was nothing interesting. Only theories. People wonder where I'll show up next. Sky, by the way, still listened to me and did not restore the site. But this did not stop other enthusiasts from continuing her work and creating similar sites. I'm lucky that there are no more talents like Sky, and I'm basically not in danger. For all the time, they were able to recognize a couple more of my transformations. But that's it. At 8 in the morning, the girls finally woke up. When they saw me sitting quietly, they were obviously surprised. Still, I almost always disappear in the morning, minding my business. Did you go anywhere today? Gwen asked, holding back a yawn. Went. But I quickly finished my business. I said honestly. And what were you doing? Ashley asked as she sat down next to me. I'll tell you later. By the way, today we are likely to meet our old friend. I said, pointing at the laptop monitor. On the screen was an article about today's prison break, which is 200 kilometers from Las Vegas. It was not said who escaped, but everything is clear to me. Prison break? Who escaped? Gwen asked, tilting her head. Hex. Hex? The same sorcerer you took Bezel's charms from? Ashley asked. Yes. It looks like the police tied him up that time and put him in a local prison. I said. Well, this was already clear, but the girls were not in the know. And you think he's coming to town? Gwen asked. Yes, I'm 100% sure. And with our luck, we'll meet him almost immediately. But this time, it's all yours. I won't even interfere. Hex is the perfect opponent for you, and you can try out all your techniques and skills on him. This is a very good chance for you. I said with a serious face. But will you cover us? Ashley asked. Not. Generally. I found out that he has one artifact that does not belong to him. As soon as Hex shows up, I'll pick him up and leave. Then it's yours. Also, you will have to make sure that people do not get hurt. Consider that this time, you are alone. I said, still maintaining a serious expression on my face. It is high time for them to become independent. And stop relying on me all the time. During this time, I will also be able to talk to the Charmcaster. When they heard me, the girls were quite surprised. They didn't seem to expect me to leave them alone. But they need it. And apparently they understand it too. They looked at each other for a moment and nodded their heads. Okay, you can rely on us. We'll manage. Gwen said with confidence in her voice. Yes. We are not little girls. Besides, we are strong. No wonder you trained us so much. Hex can't handle us. We'll put it up quickly. Ashley exclaimed, raising her hand. The right attitude. Discarding all the recent seriousness, I said with a smile. Do you know where Hex will go? Ashley asked. Yes. Right here. I said, and brought up an advertisement for the wizard convention on the monitor. This is. I just wanted to go there. Gwen said, surprised. Well, I told you that with our luck, we will definitely run into Hex. Even if I hadn't found out about his plans, we would still have met. With a smirk, I said. How did you find out about his plans? Gwen asked. Well, let's just say I have a spy. She wants to get rid of Hex, so she asked for help. I said honestly. She? And who is she? Gwen asked, narrowing her eyes. I'll tell you later. If everything goes well, she can become our magic teacher. After all, you won't get far with 2 books and magic constructions. I said, trying to calm the growing conflict. She wants that artifact you want to take from Hex? Ashley asked. Yes. Well, since everything has been discussed, go get dressed, it's time for us to leave soon. I said. Gwen and Ashley wanted to say something else, but decided to leave me alone. Thank God. When they went to get ready, Grandfather came up to the sofa, who heard the whole conversation and asked, Do you really think they're ready? Yes. It's time for them to get real combat experience and test their skills in real combat. I said smartly. You're right, no training can replace a real fight. But I'm still worried. Thoughtfully, said Grandpa. Don't worry, Grandpa. I'll leave a clone to look after them. And besides, we have the charm of resurrection. And honestly, Hex isn't all that dangerous. Right now, his staff only has half the power. Everything will be okay. I said reassuringly. Well, if there's going to be a clone there, then I don't need to worry. With a sigh, said Grandpa. Well, that's good. I warned the girls, and reassured the grandfather. After 15 the girls were ready, so we went to have breakfast. Despite the fact that the hotel was pretty cool, the buffet was poor. And the products were so-so. Good thing we're not picky. After breakfast, we went to the wizard convention. This event itself took place in one of the 5-star hotels, which has a casino. In such places, such conventions often take place, so it's not surprising. Since we arrived quite early, we decided to take a walk and see what there is of interest. If you don't know that magic really exists, then it's very cool here. But, unfortunately, we have all seen real magic and technologies that are difficult to distinguish from magic. The same Omnitrix, an example of this. Therefore, we were frankly bored. At least me and Gwen for sure. It's hard to tell from Grandfather what he thinks. I'm sure he wasn't impressed either, after all he'd seen a lot in his life. But Ashley here was interesting. She liked all those conjurer, fortune-tellers and fake paraphernalia. Gwen was clearly unhappy with this place and soon broke down. There is nothing real here. Some fakes. I thought there would be real magic here. It would be better not to come here at all. Gwen puffed indignantly. What else did you expect from Vegas? I asked. But I thought that since magic really exists, there would be at least something magical here. Since there's nothing real here, why would Hex come here? Gwen asked. And she knows how to ask questions. A place like this convention is not where any true magician will come. So, logically speaking, this is the perfect place to hide something magical. I said. Here you are right. And what is Hex looking for here? Gwen asked thoughtfully. Instead of answering, I pointed at one of the counters. Gwen turned and looked where I pointed. The same gypsy woman sat behind the counter and sold her knickknacks. At first, Gwen didn't understand what I meant. But then she finally noticed the bracelet. That's, Gwen muttered. Yes. Bezel's Keystone. It's just the same and looking for Hex. I said. Of course, Gwen knows what that thing is. She did read the Arcamida book of spells, after all. He is real? Not. Of course, it's fake. Tonight, I used a search spell and found the stone, and then replaced it with a fake. Do not leave such an artifact in the hands of ordinary people. Besides, who knows what crazy magician might accidentally find him? I said. And what did you do with the stone? Gwen asked. For now, I've hidden it. Then, when I have time, I will study it. Most likely, I will keep it for myself and will use it. I said thoughtfully. Well, yes, it turns out honestly. We each have 2 of Bezel's charms. Gwen muttered. Right. Go ahead. Hex should be coming soon. I said and led Gwen to walk further. Like I said, Hex showed up 10 minutes later. And again, without too much pathos was not done. Breaking through the upper window, he flew into the room, shrouded in red smoke. Chapter 75, 74. Hope. As soon as we came to this convention, while no one was watching, I managed to turn into Echo and created one clone. The clone turned into a chameleon and, becoming invisible, hid somewhere here. He will help people, and if the girls get into trouble, he will save them and defeat Hex. After that, I started to constantly use X-ray vision and check the area. Even when talking to Gwen. I wanted to be ready for Hex's arrival. Also, I was wondering what Hope would do when they arrived. Will she go with Hex inside? Or stay outside? It turned out the second. Hex himself. I noticed a minute before he broke through the window in the ceiling of the room. Hex and Hope flew to the building itself on an iron door. In my opinion, not the most convenient transport, but nobody cares about my opinion. Hope is smart. She obeyed me and disguised herself. Well done. She suits this coat. Breaking through the glass with a shot from his staff, Hex jumped off the door and flew into the room. I do not know how he flew without the help of the charm of telekinesis, most likely thanks to the staff. But I must say he looked pathetic and majestic. Also, he created smoke for some reason. Therefore, it seemed that he did not jump off the flying door, but appeared from the smoke. Hope took advantage of this smoke screen. She also jumped off the door, but instead of getting inside, she landed on the roof and began to observe what was happening inside the room. Hex didn't even notice that Hope was gone. Here it is, an example of a good uncle. To further scare the people who were already running away with screaming, Hex destroyed several stalls with his magic beams. While Hex was having fun scaring people, the girls and I managed to hide and put on our costumes. Before coming out of hiding, I used my X-ray vision again and looked at Hex. Last time I searched Hex, I didn't find any locket or key, so it's safe to assume he hid them. It is unlikely that Hex would have left something that could control Hope, as there was a chance that she would find the locket and escape from him. So, the locket is hidden somewhere on his body. And I was right. I quickly found what I needed. Hex has 2 leather bracers. And in one of them, to be precise in the left one, there is a hiding place. Last time, I didn't take off his bracers, so I didn't find that stash. But now, I have supervision and I can see everything. Before attacking Hex, I quietly said to the girls, I need his bracer. When it is in my hands, it is completely yours. The girls only nodded, confirming that they understood me and would act as I said. I wanted to do it quickly and without a full fight, so while Hex was looking for the Keystone, I was able to sneak up on him from behind. After creating the Iron Man glove construct, I fired my repulsor at Hex in the back. But either Hex heard me, or he had excellent instincts, he managed to twitch. Instead of his back, the shot hit Hex in the right shoulder. But it was even better this way. Hex turned around to me, and this was a great chance for me. Since Hex was slightly disoriented, I was able to act. Jumping into the air to Hex's level, I hovered with telekinesis, and then creating a sharp throwing knife, I threw it at the sorcerer. Following my wish, the knife went straight into Hex's left bracer and cut through it. Also, it's cut Hex's arm pretty badly, but who cares? The bracer began to fall to the floor, and I turned into Jet Ray and fired 2 lasers from my eyes at Hex. Hex, who had just begun to recover from the pain in his arm, took the attack on his chest and flew several meters away. I, using the speed of the Jet Ray, flew up and grabbed the bracer, which immediately went to my inventory. Hex finally pulled away from the attack and looked at me. He immediately recognized me and shouted angrily, "Again you! I will destroy you!" and shot me with several beams from the staff. I became human again and just created a big blue shield that protected me from Hex's attack. Since I was no longer interested in him, I said to the girls, "He's yours." Hex didn't understand what I meant and just growled as he continued to attack my shield. By the way, even a crack did not appear on the shield. Still, the strength of the staff is still not enough. The girls were finally ready. Hex, who was still attacking me, was hit by lightning and flew back a few meters again. It even got a little on fire. Since the girls are fighting, I can leave everything to them and finally meet Hope. The clone, if anything, will help the girls, so I don't have to worry. Transforming into the 2 tails, I teleported to the rooftop. I ended up behind Hope, who had been watching what was happening downstairs all this time. Emanations of happiness emanated from her. It is not entirely clear what exactly she was pleased with. The one that Hex got for nuts or the fact that I took the bracer. Hope most likely was aware of this hiding place, but could not pick up the medallion herself, since Hex always had the bracer with him. As far as I remember, his clothes were not taken even in prison, which is rather strange and illogical. But maybe he used some kind of hypnosis to keep the guards from taking his stuff. But, apparently, his hypnosis was not enough to get out of prison. In general, I decided to finally announce myself and finally get to know Hope, in reality. Noticing the transformation, I took off my suit and said, "Hey." With this, I scared Hope very much, as she jumped up and almost fell down through the broken window. I caught her with telekinesis and put her on the roof, away from the hole, so that she would not stumble again. Once on her feet, Hope clutched her chest and sighed. Looks like she was really scared. Finally coming to her senses, Hope lifted her head and finally looked at me. And then it happened. As soon as we looked into each other's eyes, my magic just flared up and raged all over my body. The same thing happened to Hope, judging by the haze of pink mana that was coming out of her body. My body was also emitting haze, but it was blue in color. Hope now seemed to me the most beautiful girl in the world. I really wanted to jump on her and do very obscene things. My arousal has reached an abnormal level. But I was able to control myself. Hardly. It took all my willpower not to literally knock Hope to the ground and K her right there. Judging by her completely red face and her legs rubbing against each other, Hope felt the same way. After a couple of minutes of silence, Hope was able to squeeze out, "Hello." Hearing her voice made me feel worse. It was the cutest, most beautiful, sexy and erotic voice in the world. Keeping myself under control, at least trying, I took out the bracer from the inventory. Seeing the bracer in my hands, Hope promo beamed and smiled brightly. She tried to approach me, but immediately stopped. As we approached one step, we felt that the excitement intensified. Using all my inner strength not to rush to Hope, I opened the cash-in bracer and took out the locket and key. Throwing the bracer away, I carefully looked at the things that Hope needed so much. The key was clearly made of magical metal. Small runes were carved all over its surface. I didn't know them, so that's all I could figure out about this key. I threw the key to Hope. She caught it and put it to her chest. And again she gave me a bright smile, after which she put the key in her creepy magical purse. "I understand that you are glad, but do not smile. So it's only worse." Shaking my head, pushing aside my excitement, I looked at the locket. The medallion itself was small, the size of a coin. It was red, I would even say bloody. And again, it had a lot of runes on it. True to others, but to me, it means practically nothing. Until recently, I would not have known what to do with a medallion, because I do not know how to properly destroy such things. Still, it can be really dangerous and will only make things worse. But now, I have what I need. Taking out my new dagger, I activated it with my mana and tossed the locket up. And then, in one swift motion, I cut the locket in half exactly. The dagger that can cut through everything magical has shown itself just fine. It's good that I took it. A wave of red magical energy emerged from the cut locket. When the wave touched Hope, she was engulfed with energy and the sound of breaking glass thundered. Hope closed her eyes for a moment, then the haze of magic around her intensified. "I'm free. Thank you," Hope said with a bright smile and tears in her eyes. Apparently, she was no longer going to endure the excitement. Running up to me, Hope jumped into my arms and kissed me on the lips. Hope wrapped her legs around my waist and tightly clung to me, continuing the kiss. Holding Hope, I kissed back too. We both understood that all this would not end with a simple kiss and we would go to the end. But Hope didn't seem to mind at all. She was only too happy to continue. And who am I to refuse a sexy girl? Moreover, due to the state of our magic, we definitely wouldn't stop. Therefore, I didn't think too much and decided to enjoy the situation. I grabbed Hope's ass with my hands and tightened my grip on her soft buttocks. At this, Hope groaned erotically and stopped the kiss, said in an excited voice, "Lex, take me." This completely blew my mind and knocking her to the ground, I began to kiss her more aggressively. At the same time, I also began to knead her chest. Hope kept moaning and flailing her hips at my touch. On the last of my sanity, I realized that we can't have sex on the roof of some building, so using the infinity tattoo, I transported us to a safe place. Chapter 76. 75. Girls vs. Hex. Lex's clone POV. After being created, I turned into a chameleon, and merging with the environment, I climbed to the ceiling. From here, I have an excellent view of the entire convention, so I can safely watch the subsequent battle of the girls against Hex. If anything, I can always come to the rescue. Half an hour later, Hex finally showed up and immediately wreaked chaos. I had to act quickly and first of all, I protected a couple kissing behind one of the souvenir tents from the glass that fell from the ceiling after Hex broke it. Next, I had to deal with the crush that was about to form at the exit, as ordinary people wanted to be as far away as possible from the terrible magician that was destroying the stalls throughout the room. Transforming into a spider monkey, I went to the door and with all my might destroyed half of the entire wall so that all people could run out into the street without trampling each other. Although, nevertheless, there were a couple of individuals who managed to fall to the floor, and I had to save them already from the fate of turning into a flapjack. Fortunately, with the help of the web, this was not difficult to do. Unfortunately, this led to the fact that some people noticed me and even managed to take a photo. Here fans of Legion will be happy. I don't have Morgana with me, so I can't do anything about it. When most of the people left the premises and no one else was in immediate danger, I hid again so as not to draw Hex's attention. It was at this point that the original decided to act and entered into a short-term confrontation with the evil sorcerer. Pretty quickly, having received the bracer that we needed so much, the original pathetically retired, leaving everything else to the girls. After recovering from Ashley's attack, Hex with a crazy look began to search for the one who attacked him. And since there was no one else in the room except Gwen and Ashley, he quickly found his opponents. The problem was that the original made him very angry, and now Hex was in a real rage. It no longer mattered to him that his hated enemy had managed to leave somewhere, now he just needed to throw out his anger, and in front of him, there were two excellent goals. Animo cataractum. Hex called out, raising his staff before Gwen and Ashley could attack the sorcerer again. By the will of Hex, all the nearby water that was in the pipes and sewers collected in the room, and turned into a huge water monster, which immediately began to attack Gwen, who was clearly surprised by such a demonstration of magic. It looks like Hex decided to even the odds and called in an assistant to keep Gwen busy while the sorcerer himself deals with Ashley. This time, Hex had the opportunity to show why he is a real magic master and why he was so arrogant. To be honest, last time, everything went so fast that I forgot that Hex is really a strong magician, quite capable of destroying an entire city. But now, it has become a real test for girls. They clearly expected that everything would be much easier. Well, it will be a great lesson for them not to be overconfident and not just stand there and let the enemy prepare an attack. I hope they remember this day for a long time and this will not happen again. Although, we must praise the girls for the quick reaction. They immediately decided to split up and each took up his enemy. Gwen, using her charm of pyrokinesis, flew into the air and dodged the water monster's attack, then sent a flurry of fire at him, which evaporated some of the water. Unfortunately, this did not help much and the monster continued to attack. Ashley, at the same time, using the charm of telekinesis, picked up all the surrounding debris and threw it at Hex, who was in the process of casting a new offensive spell. With this, she interrupted Hex and he had to use another spell to protect himself from the oncoming trash. Abeo Exorior, Hex hurriedly said, and a yellow spherical dome formed around him. However, unlike Ashley's expectations, it was not a defensive spell, but a teleportation spell. The Hex dome disappeared and appeared right behind the unsuspecting Ashley. I already wanted to act and protect my girlfriend, but at the last moment I decided to trust her and rely on the protection of the suit. Once behind the enemy, Hex shot Ashley with a strong magic beam from his staff. Fortunately, at the last moment, Ashley felt something and moved her cover from her hands to her back, and this saved her from any damage. But, she was still slammed into the floor. I don't know who you are, but given your costumes, I'm guessing you're with the brat who put me in jail. I don't know where he went, but you will regret contacting me. I will destroy you, and then I will return my Bezel's charms and take revenge on the Legion. A painful end awaits you all. This I promise you, heroes, Hex said, eyes red with anger, as Ashley rose to her feet. Dream on, psycho, Ashley said confidently as she rose into the air again. You! The sorcerer shouted and raised his staff of ages, starting to prepare a new magic shot, but he was interrupted by a Gwen voice. Kudzutek. Gwen sang, creating a huge fire tsunami that almost instantly vaporized the water monster. This spell, Hex said in shock, looking at the death of his assistant. Before the sorcerer had time to say anything else, he received a blow right on the nose from Ashley, who flew up to him. This momentarily disorientated the sorcerer, but he quickly came to his senses and roared like a rabid beast. My charms! You have had them all this time. Return them. Return immediately. They are not yours, said Gwen as she flew up. Yes, you lost them in battle and now they belong to us, Ashley said, hovering in the air next to her friend. You! How dare you! Hex roared even louder. A huge amount of magical power began to emanate from him, and now he was bathed in his own magic. Looks like he won't hold back this time. I will kill you. Not even a speck of dust will be left of you. Somehow too calmly, the sorcerer said and pointed his staff at the girls. Now, it has become too dangerous. Who knows what this crazy psychopath is up to? My way out. Just when I wanted to transform, something unexpected happened. All the magical power emitted by Hex simply evaporated, and he himself flopped to the ground, with a rather nasty sound. This was not expected by anyone, and now all of us were simply shocked. Recovering faster than anyone else, I descended from the ceiling to the ground and ran to the magician to check on him. The girls weren't overly surprised at my appearance and soon came up to me, just as I finished checking what had caused such a disappointing outcome of the battle. What about him? He died? Gwen asked, taking off her mask, looking at Hex's body. No, he just passed out, I said, still in my spider monkey form. So what happened? Ashley asked, also removing her mask. Blood loss. See, I said and pointed to Hex's hand, which was covered in blood. But how? When I cut off the bracer, I cut his arm too badly, and this is the result. All this time, he was losing blood and he just didn't seem to notice it. As a result, due to overexertion during the battle, his body refused to work further and he passed out. I said. He will die? Gwen asked. No, he is stronger than a normal person. Aside from a lot of blood loss and a broken leg from a fall, he's fine. He will get out without problems, even without medical help, I said and turned into a man. And what will happen next? Ashley asked as she removed her suit as she realized the fight was over. Now that he knows we have Charm of Bezel, he won't leave us alone. Something must be done about this. Thoughtfully, I said. Sorry. I did not think that he would understand everything from one spell, Gwen said, bowing her head in shame. Nothing. That's what I was expecting when I sent you to fight him. He is, after all, an experienced magician and nothing less could be expected from him, I said, patting Gwen on the head. And what are you going to do? As punishment for all his crimes, I will send him to a prison that he will not find as comfortable as the last one. And the memory of the charms, I will simply erase with the help of the alien's power. Shrugging, I said. Is it that simple? Gwen asked in surprise. Yes. True, I have no experience in this, but I think everything will be fine. I said and turned into squid. I hope this alien's instincts will help me not fry Hex's brains, otherwise it will be uncomfortable. Flying up to the sorcerer's head, I placed 2 of my tentacles on his head and set to work. After finding the memories of the last battle, I carefully began to change them so that Hex would not find out about the charms. Everything worked out fine until I accidentally pushed too hard and Hex's entire memory shattered into pieces. Still, my telepathy is too strong and out of control. I said to myself and quickly began to pick up Hex's memory shards. After 15 minutes, everything was restored, but I do not know how well it turned out. The main thing is that Hex is still alive and able to think. I seem to have lost nothing and even managed to do what was necessary. He again thinks that I have already destroyed Bezel's charms and even the Keystone. Now, he must calm down. When I finished, I left the sorcerer's mind and became human again. Things are good? Gwen asked. Seems to be yes. There were some hiccups, but it all worked out. Okay, let's end this. It's time to go back. Grandpa Max has been waiting for us, I said and sent Hex to Null Void, using the projector that I was given for this. This time, I still took the Staff of Ages, since now I have someone to give it to. Hope will definitely need this piece of wood, especially once she's powerful enough to use it. Coming out of the dilapidated building, we saw Max, who was impatiently waiting for us at our bus. Seeing that we were safe, Grandfather broke into a smile and gave us a thumbs up. Since the cops were due to arrive soon, we quickly got on the bus and drove to our hotel. Along the way, the girls talked about the past battle and received well-deserved praise from Grandfather. I wonder where the original went? Something he long. I hope nothing happened. Looks like for a while, I'll have to replace it. I thought at last. Chapter 77. 76. Hope July 2nd 13, 2010. Hearing the ringtone, I sleepily opened my eyes, took the phone in my hand and answered the call. Listen? It's me. Where did you disappear to? According to the plan, you were supposed to be back by now. I heard my own voice on the phone. Realizing that a clone was calling me, I looked at the time and saw that it was already 1 hour in the morning the next day. Remembering what happened after meeting Hope, I looked to my left and saw this same girl lying naked with me in bed, while clinging to me with a stupid smile on her face. I'm in a cave. With Hope. Everything didn't go as expected. I need a little more time to figure everything out. I'll try to be back by lunchtime, so cover me for now, I said, carefully getting out of bed, trying not to wake the Charmcaster. Understood. My clone said. How did it go with Hex? I asked, putting on the underwear which I found under the bed. Not as good as we would like, but the girls did great. In the end, I sent Hex to Null Void after working on his memory a bit. The clone replied. It's clear. Then you will tell everything in detail. What about charms? I asked. Unfortunately, nothing happened. I performed the necessary ritual during the solar eclipse, but nothing happened. It seems that if there is already one set of the charms of Bezel, it will not be possible to create a new one, Clone said. It's clear. It's a pity, but I didn't expect it to work, although it was worth trying. Where are you now? I asked. Still at the hotel in Las Vegas, but we're leaving in the morning. In the evening, an old friend of grandfather called and invited us all to an underwater resort in the Bermuda Triangle. So tomorrow we fly to Miami in a private jet. The clone reported. So it's time for this adventure, huh? Okay, I'll try to get there before you get into this underwater trap, I said, remembering the upcoming event. Understood, the clone said and hung up. Turning off the phone, I was again glad that I got Echo. Unlike Ditto's hive mind, Echo has a self-awareness of his own that is no different from mine, so he is able to act quite independently without my guidance. At the same time, the clone is completely devoted to the main body. In general, as they say, if you want to do something well, entrust it to the loyal clone. Lex. Hope's voice was heard, who nevertheless woke up after hearing the noise. I'm here. You can sleep for now, it's late at night, I said, walking up to the girl. Where are we? The girl asked, looking around the interior. We are on my spaceship. In the captain's cabin, I said, and opened the portholes through which one could see the hangar. Hearing my words, Hope opened her eyes wide and wrapped herself in a blanket, quickly walked to the porthole to look at the huge room in which the Merlin stood. Do you have a starship? Hope asked softly. Yes. True, this is a temporary option. Soon, I'm going to build a new one that will be much better. With a smile, I said. Where did you get it from? Hope asked, turning to face me. It's a long story. Although, we have time and we can finally get to know each other properly. You do not mind? At my words, Hope blushed slightly, apparently remembering the consequences of our acquaintance, and then happily nodded her head. Well, that's good. Then get dressed and go to the kitchen. We'll talk over food, I said, and left the cabin to give the girl some privacy. Arriving in the kitchen, I began to prepare snacks that should dull our hunger. Just as I was done, Hope arrived. She was wearing only my wrinkled shirt and pink panties. Right now, she looked damn sexy, but it wasn't up to that, so I put aside the obscene thoughts. Sit down, food is served. With a smile, I said. Thank you, said the girl, sitting down at the table and starting to eat sandwiches. Then let me begin my story. It all started at the beginning of the summer, when my family and I went on a trip around the country. I began to tell Hope the whole story. After what happened between us earlier, it just doesn't make sense to hide anything from Hope. I don't think she'll want to get it once she finds out about the Omnitrix, considering I recently literally freed her from Hex's slavery and gave her a night of love. Although, of course, I did not tell quite everything and kept silent about some points. But, even the girls and Max don't know everything, so there's nothing to worry about. Everyone has a right to their secrets. The whole story took 2 hours, and when I finished, Hope sat with her jaw dropped and looked at me in shock. This is my kind of summer. Even though it hasn't even been a month and a half. With a smile, I said. After getting over her surprise, Hope looked at my watch, which I had deliberately removed my disguise from, and said in a hushed voice, I thought I had serious problems in life, but compared to you, this is nothing. I had only problems with my uncle, and you are being chased by a real intergalactic dictator. Something like this. But I managed. As for Hex, you don't have to worry anymore, I said. Did you kill him? Hope asked a little sadly. No, what are you? I've locked him up in the prison dimension, so he won't be back anytime soon. This time, he won't be able to escape so easily, I said. Is that how? This is good, Hope said with a sigh. You have a strange reaction. I thought you hated him. Raising an eyebrow, I said. I hate it, of course. It's just, he's the only one I have left. After my parents died, my uncle took care and protected me. Before, he was a completely different person. He was an explorer and his main passion was magic. He devoted his life to the study of old grimoires and wizards of the past. There was no this stupid skull tattoo, nickname and other dark paraphernalia. Uncle Gregor was a simple and good man, Hope said with her head down. Yes? Didn't expect this. And what has changed? I asked in surprise. Didn't expect Hex's real name to be Gregor, although it suits him. The death of my mother hit him hard. She was his beloved sister and he doted on her. After Uncle took me in, he began to get involved in the darker side of magic in order to gain power and take revenge on Adwaita. As a result, he turned into the one you know today, Hope said with a sad smile. It turns out that because of the thirst for revenge, he was ready to sacrifice even you, his own niece, the daughter of his adored sister? I asked, frowning. It turns out that way. And I kind of understand it. For the last 10 years, I myself have been obsessed with a thirst for revenge, and there have been moments when I myself was ready to do anything to get more power. The only thing that stopped me was the upbringing of my parents, who would not want me to stoop so low. But a couple more years and I wouldn't care anymore, especially when my uncle stopped really teaching me. Hope said honestly. Thirst for revenge is such, yes, all-consuming and relentless. But still there is something strange in this story. I said thoughtfully. What do you mean? Hope asked, looking up at me. The way Hex has changed. I still understand the fascination with dark magic and the thirst for revenge, but the way he treated you is not included in any framework. He literally put you on a chain and, most likely, was going to use you as a victim to get even more strength. Why didn't he find another wizard? Why did he raise and take care of you for 10 years when everything could be done so much easier? It seems to me that it could not have been done without outside help. I told my thoughts. Hearing my words, Hope thought for a moment, and then said, "You're right. Sounds very logical. Why didn't I think of this myself? You were a child, do not blame yourself for inattention," I said with comfort in my voice. And who do you think could have done this with Uncle? According to what you say, this Adwaita killed your parents, so it is logical to assume that this is also his work. I said calmly. This parasite. It wasn't enough for him to kill my parents and usurp the throne of Legerdemain, so he decided to ruin my life here on Earth as well. Hope hissed in anger, and started pacing back and forth. Don't worry, I'll help you deal with this, as you say, parasite. I'm still a hero, and protecting an entire magical dimension from a cruel dictator is just my job. With a dazzling smile, I said. You don't have to, Hope said modestly. Not worth it. I don't mind helping you either. Moreover, after everything that happened between us, I have to take responsibility. Especially when I locked your only relative in another dimension. With a smile, I said. At the mention of our intercourse, Hope blushed like a boiled crayfish, but quickly took herself in her hand and said, Don't worry, I'm not mad at you for what happened to your uncle. Even if Adwaita really influenced him, Uncle Gregor still did a lot of bad things and he needs to answer for it. Actually, Null Void isn't such a bad place. Although, there will have to fight for survival. It is possible that he will be re-educated and become better. I patted Hope on the head. It's truth? Well, you should always hope for the best. I said with a wry smile, and then added, Let's stop talking about sad things and talk about you. Why don't you tell your story? Okay, why not? Well, I was born into the royal family of Legerdemain, so I can still be considered a real princess. Hope said with a smile, after which she began to talk about her childhood, her home dimension, her parents, her uncle and magical training. At some points, she was a little hard, but when talking about her home, she directly beamed and was very inspired. At that moment, I really wanted to go to Legerdemain and tear this F*** king turtle to pieces. When Hope finished her story, she was in a more positive mood than before, so I decided not to ignore the pig in a poke anymore and asked bluntly, Can we finally talk about what happened between us? My question obviously unnerved Hope, but she must be commended. This time she did not blush like an innocent schoolgirl. Clenching her hands into fists, the girl nodded and said with determination, You're right, it's time for us to talk about what happened. I should explain the whole situation. Right. We really should have done it before it even happened. I said with an uncertain smile. Showing the exact same smile, Hope nodded timidly and continued. So, you probably already understood that all this is connected with our magic. It's hard not to guess, especially if we remember our common dreams and what happened on the roof. I said. Right. In short, we are betrothed. Hope said, her cheeks blushing again. Betrothed? So the bride and groom? That is, are we a couple destined by fate? Should we be together? I asked, receiving a nod in response. To be more precise, a couple destined by magic. It's all about our magic. Hope said. Don't tell me it's some kind of magical compatibility and magic itself wants us to be together? I asked in a somewhat depressed tone. But it is, I swear to you. Hope said hotly, leaning towards me. It's just a cliché. I said with a derogatory laugh. What? Not understanding me, asked the Charmcaster. I was expecting some kind of terrible secret or riddle, but it turned out that we just have to be together, because we are suitable for each other. Magic decided everything for us. Almost laughing, I said. Although it seems that with these words I insulted my interlocutor. The smile faded from Hope's face and she quietly asked, "So you're against it? Even after all that's happened?" Looking at the gloomy face of the Charmcaster, I immediately realized my mistake and tried to explain myself. No, of course I don't mind. It's just that I'm not too happy with the reason it happened. We were manipulated for unknown purposes and I don't like it. We practically do not know each other, and I have already deprived you of your innocence, in a fit of insane lust inspired by magic. I was sure that you would just be unhappy with what happened. But you don't seem to mind. Slightly frowning, I said. I understand your concerns, but you can be sure that I don't mind what happened. On the contrary, I really liked everything. You were gentle and gave me indescribable pleasure. Hope said, blushing a little at the end. Thanks, I'm glad to hear that. I said, placing my hand on Hope's. Even I was taken in by these words, and redness appeared on my ears. Never before had a girl said such words to me. With a warm smile, Hope squeezed my hand and continued. Actually, you don't have to worry about us being manipulated. There was no malicious intent in this. It's just that magic decided to help us meet and connect our hearts, since we are her beloved children and she only wants us to be happy. After thinking about the words of the girl a little, I nevertheless decided to ask what had been tormenting me for a long time. So magic is really alive? And does she have self-awareness? More than once I have heard or read words that describe magic as a living being. Needless to say, I myself used similar phrases. But there was never a real explanation and I took a lot of faith. So where is the truth? Magic is indeed alive. There is no doubt about it. It's practically the first thing my uncle taught me. Still, mana, what magic essentially consists of, is the life energy of the universe. But about self-awareness is unknown. No one has yet proven it. It is only known that sometimes inexplicable phenomena occur, if you like, miracles that cannot be explained otherwise. Magicians and other users of magic have long been accustomed to explaining such phenomena as the will of magic. Hope said thoughtfully. Even so? It turns out that what happened to us is the will of magic? For clarification, I asked. Right. You see, all users of magic are her children. She loves all of us, some less, some more. Magic, like a caring mother who only wishes us all happiness. Hence the unusual phenomena. Although, of course, like any mother, magic can punish a negligent child, especially if he violates unwritten laws and behaves badly. Although, this does not always happen. Hope said. Like raising the dead or taking over legerdemain. I suggested. Exactly. I have heard many horror stories about what happened to those who tried to resurrect the long dead or played with necromancy. And you correctly cited Adwaita as an example. As far as I heard, he has already received punishment for his atrocities. Lately, he's completely gone nuts. He feels constant paranoia and fear that someone will come and take away his treasures and usurped throne. For a power-hungry bastard like this turtle, this is the perfect punishment. Hope said. But you, of course, think that this is not enough. I said without doubting the veracity of my words. Of course, he still killed my parents and destroyed my house. I won't rest until I finish this turtle. Hope said angrily, though she quickly calmed down. I won't say that it's right, but I can understand you, so I won't stop you and will even help you. I said, although I knew that Max would not be pleased with this, sometimes just need to finish what started. Thank you. So where did I stop? Hope said, smiling at me, and then continued, oh yes. As you understand, magic has not yet been fully studied, it is unpredictable and uncontrollable. Therefore it is not always clear whether there will be consequences and whether a reaction will appear, therefore there are still magicians who do not shy away from breaking the rules. But, for all the time of their existence, the magicians were still able to understand and even predict some of the events that were inspired by the will of magic. And that's exactly what happened to us. Nodding my head, I said. Yes. What happened to us is called magic wedding. Hope said, again unable to contain her embarrassment. Wedding? So we're married now? I asked in surprise, not expecting this at all. Yes. This happened to my parents. I didn't remember right away, but in my childhood my mother told me about it. She was an ordinary person from Earth, until one day she discovered her magical abilities, and soon she began to share dreams with my father. As the king of the magical dimension, he was well aware of the reasons for these dreams, so he quickly arrived on Earth to meet his mother and they had the same thing. Hope said. That is, crazy lust, followed by hot sex? I asked with a provocative smile. Don't say that. I feel awkward. But you're right. Sex itself is the ritual that ends the wedding. An unbreakable vow that binds us for the rest of our lives. Lightly hitting my arm, said Hope. So you didn't mind? So did you know it was the influence of magic? I asked. Right. In addition, such a wedding guarantees that you and we will be happy and true love awaits us. Once magic has connected us, then we are destined to be together. It's just that instead of being in a normal relationship, we've taken a crash course because the magic feels it's necessary. Who knows what our first meeting would have been like without the intervention of magic? It's entirely possible that we might not get along, or fight at all, given that I was with Hex. Hope said. You're right about that. I can already imagine how it would have happened if we had met during Hex's attack. I said, remembering the canon and how everything happened there. Here you go. And thanks to magic, everything went differently, and now we are together. Hope said, blushing again. Stop blushing already. After what you did in bed, it's too late to be shy. I couldn't resist. At my reaction, Hope only blushed even more and covered her face in shame. Okay, I'm kidding. I understood the whole situation, and although it's still hard for me to accept it, I understand that it's all for the best and now we are together. True, there is another problem. I said. Which problem? Hope asked after listening carefully. I have a girlfriend. More precisely, even two. And they will be very unhappy with what happened to us, especially when they find out about sex and a magical wedding. I said honestly. Are you talking about Gwen and Ashley? Hope asked calmly. What? How do you know? I asked, not expecting such a turn. During the Anyway, during the process, I had a vision about the romantic relationship you are in. This is also part of the wedding. Hope said. Yes? I didn't have anything like that. I said thoughtfully. That makes sense, after all, I haven't had any romantic relationship with anyone. Hope said proudly. All clear. So what do you think of Gwen and Ashley? I asked, looking strangely at Hope's proud face. Don't forget that I'm from another dimension, and I was a member of the royal family, so there is nothing strange for me in harems. I don't mind if you have mistresses, after all, I don't need to be jealous. You are already mine, and I am yours. Nothing in this world can separate us. Absolutely confidently, said Hope. Of course, this greatly facilitates the whole situation, since I am not going to leave Gwen and Ashley. But now I have to tell them about all this and hope that they will not kill me when they find out that I actually cheated on them, and I also managed to get married. Although I promised that Gwen would become his first wife and promised not to add girls to the harem without their consent. I said with a sigh of relief. That's a good rule, by the way. In this, I will support them. Well, as for the rest, don't worry, I myself will talk to your girlfriends and explain everything to them. Hope said. Are you sure? I don't think anything good will come of this. I said uncertainty. Don't worry, we'll talk with them like a woman and settle everything. My new magical wife said confidently. Okay, I'll trust you. I said and checked the time. It was already almost 6 a.m. We've been sitting for 5 hours and it looks like it's time to go on business. I need to get back to my family, otherwise they will worry. I said. Is it time for us to part? Hope asked sadly. I still have time before dinner, so we can go get your parents' things. I said after some thought. I completely forgot about it. Where is the key to the safe? Somewhere in the cabin, don't worry. Let's go, we need to get dressed and we can go. Let's fly the Merlin. Where is the safe located? I said as I left the kitchen. Hope followed me. In Hex's private bedroom, in his castle. Hope said as she began to collect her belongings scattered around the cabin. And what is the destination? I asked as I pulled out a new set of clothes from my storage. Salem. Chapter 78. 77. Hex's Castle. Does he really have to be so banal? I involuntarily asked, looking at the typical Dark Lord's castle that was home to Hex and the Charmcaster. It was a classic Gothic dark stone castle that stood on top of a hill with thunderclouds wrapped around it. Just like in some cartoon about a villain who wants to take over the world. Well, like in Scooby-Doo. Uncle loves pathos, so it's no surprise that he built such a castle. Hope calmly said that she was now standing next to me. Now we were on the captain's bridge of the Merlin, watching Hex's castle. The place where he was also utterly banal. And to be more precise, 4 kilometers from the center of Salem, Massachusetts, on the banks of the Crane River. Although it is correct, where else to build the castle of the Dark Magician, if not near the city, which was famous for its witch hunt? Okay, F***K this. We're going down. Will you go alone or will I go with you? I asked, while ordering Morgana to land near the castle. I would be glad if you were with me at this moment, Hope said, taking my hand. I'm not against. But can I get in? Is there any protection against intruders here or something like that? I asked, squeezing the girl's hand in support. Yes, but as long as you're with me, you're considered a guest. Later, I can add you to the list of tenants so that you can visit me at any time, Hope said with a smile. Okay, then let's go, I said, and led the girl to the ladder so that we could go outside. We landed on the beach of the river, so it was not far to go. After leaving the ship, I ordered Morgana to activate stealth mode so that no one accidentally stumbles upon my spaceship. And how do the locals react to this masterpiece of architecture? I asked as we walked slowly along the beach. Ordinary people cannot see the castle. Uncle imposed a special ward that does not allow people without magic to see what is in this territory. For everyone who is not a magician, this place is a ruined, abandoned country club. So no one cares about this place, Hope said. Is that how? Clever. Useful ward, I said, surveying the territory, which had its own unusual mystical charm. Yes, it's a pity that my uncle didn't teach it to me. Old asshole, Hope said, frowning. Do not pay attention. You still have your whole life ahead of you. I'm sure you'll completely surpass Hex soon. Thank you. Showing me a beautiful smile, said the girl. At this point, we finally climbed the hill and appeared in front of a 4-meter gate that protected the castle grounds. Sesame, open up, Hope said with her hands up. At her command, the gates opened on their own, letting us inside. Seriously? I couldn't help but ask anyway. I know it's silly, but charming the gate was my first serious magic assignment. At the time, I was only 9 and had just recently read Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, and this is what came out of it, Hope said awkwardly. I don't say anything. Very suit. Trying not to offend the girl, I said. Deciding not to push the subject further, Hope silently led me inside. The interior of the castle fully corresponded to the surroundings, so we walked along a huge corridor of dark stone. Old paintings were planted on the walls, knightly armor stood in the corners, a long red carpet lay on the floor, and all this was illuminated by candelabra with candles, although obviously magical. After passing the corridor, we reached the stairs and climbed to the 3rd floor. Hex's room was the only room on the floor, so we were immediately in front of the doors leading in. They were also huge and majestic, like those at the entrance, but these were also decorated with jewels. Hope put her hand on the door and hesitated a bit before pushing them. The doors opened without problems and we saw the interior, which could only be compared with the chambers of kings. I was never allowed to come in here, Hope said, explaining her nervousness. Understand. And where is the safe? I asked, looking around the room. Behind the painting, Hope said, looking at the key that hovered over her hand and pointed to a huge, full-length portrait of Hex. What else did I expect? I asked rhetorically, tearing the painting out with telekinesis and tossing it aside. As Hope had said, behind the portrait was a gigantic, wall-mounted golden safe inscribed with a huge number of different runes. It seems that in this safe, Hex kept all his goods. Going to the vault, Hope held the key to the door, which had soaked into the safe. The safe itself shone yellow for a moment, after which there was a sound of unlocking the lock and the door itself opened. Pushing the door to the end, inside we saw a huge room, which was clearly artificially enlarged with the help of magic. All the walls were occupied with shelves with thousands and thousands of books. There were several wooden chests on the floor, where apparently all the valuables were located. Inside, one could also see what looked like a chemistry lab and a wizard's workplace. Looks like this safe not only acted as storage for Hex's things, but also as his personal library and laboratory. Looking around, I made a logical conclusion. You're right. And I kept wondering where the library is in the castle. Looked all over, but couldn't find anything. As a result, I had to be content with books that my uncle gave me every half a year. The girl grumbled angrily, examining the books on the shelves. Well, now your hands are untied and you can at least choke on these books. Where are your parents' things? I said, looking around carefully. Here they are. Hope yelled happily as she rushed to the locker next to the wooden table. Nearby was also a mannequin, which was wearing something between a witch's robe and a woman's dress. It seems to be exactly what the Charmcaster wore in the Omniverse. Approaching the girl, I saw how she sorted through various things that lay in the locker. There, I saw a photo album, a teddy bear, a gold pendant, an antique pocket watch, and a host of other memorabilia for Hope. Strange, there is no grimoire here. Where did he go? Hope said, picking things over carefully. Grimoire? Such a small red book on elementary magic? I asked, realizing that it could not have done without me. Yes, that's right. Do you know where he is? Hope asked, looking at me carefully. I have it. More specifically, Gwen. During our first meeting with Hex, I took it from him along with Charms of Bezel. Even then, I wondered why Hex, the master of magic, would carry around a book on elementary magic. I said honestly. This grimoire belonged to my mother. She accidentally found him in a thrift shop, and it was thanks to him that she learned magic. After that, she initiated her uncle into magic, and after that she met my father. Further, you know. Hope said a little sadly. That's how. Then I will return it to you, at the next meeting. I said. Now I understand why the grimoire was with Hex. He wore it as a reminder of his sister and the time they first studied magic. Thank you. For me, this is really important. Here, you can take this book as compensation. It has everything you need to become a full-fledged magician. I taught myself from it. Hope said with a smile, handing me a huge and thick black book that was lying on one of the shelves. Picking up the book, I looked at the cover and saw the pentagram symbol, as well as the inscription, Magic for Dummies. Author. Bezel. Thank you. I said awkwardly, not quite understanding how to react to this. My pleasure. Hope said with a smile, obviously not seeing anything strange in this. Moving away from the fact that the father of magic created a book with that title, I said, I can bring the Staff of Ages if you like. I still don't need him. Do you have it too? I'll be glad if you give it to me, although I won't be able to use it until I become a master. Hope said a little sad in the last part. Don't worry, now you have all the resources you need to quickly become one. I said and stroked the girl on the head. Accepting the stroke, Hope showed a beautiful smile before saying, actually, I wanted to give you a present. Here. Hope handed me an antique pocket watch that was on the shelf with her parents' other things. Is that your father? I asked, looking at the clock. They obviously were not 1 century old, but at the same time they were in excellent condition. They were clearly magical and had hidden powers. Yes. They were passed down from generation to generation in the royal family of Legerdemain. As a tradition, the current king gave this watch to his heir on their wedding day. The girl said. I can't. I tried to refuse, since it's a family heirloom, but I was stopped. No, take it. Now you are my husband. They belong to you. When we get rid of Adwaitia, you will be king of Legerdemain. Hope said seriously, clutching the watch in my hand. Realizing how serious it is for a girl, I nevertheless accepted the watch, while adding, I understand, although I do not want to become a king. Don't be afraid. I will rule and you will be my partner on the throne. Hope said with a smile. Okay, so what's next? Will you stay here? Or will you leave? We can take the safe and just move it to my base. I said, ignoring the girl's last words. I'll stay here. Hex won't be back anytime soon, so I'll have time to remove him from the list of tenants and he just won't be able to enter the castle. He overdid it too much with the defense of the castle, so now he can't destroy it himself. Especially without the Staff of Ages. Good. Here we are done. Now there is only one left. I said. What? I need your help with a ghost problem. I said, realizing that this was the perfect chance to end Zs'Scare, once and for all. Chapter 79. 78. Zs'Scare, a ghost? Hope asked, looking at me strangely. Right. To be more precise, with ectoneurite. As I told you, my watch contains DNA samples from a large number of aliens. If I'm not mistaken, a little over 1 million. And one of these samples belongs to a member of the ectoneurite race, from the planet Anerphatos, named Zs'Scare. I began to tell the essence of the story. And you have any problems with this alien? Hope guessed. Right. You see, I did not just say the word ghost. The ectoneurite is the classic image of a ghost, with all the appropriate abilities and powers. That is, invisibility, intangibility and body possession? Hope guessed correctly. Exactly. As you can imagine, this alien is incredibly useful and I use it often. In fact, he is one of my favorites. But the problem is that ectoneurites have one unpleasant feature. In some unknown way, the consciousness of representatives of this race is able to exist even in one strand of DNA. I said. You mean that this Zs'Scare's consciousness is in your watch right now? Hope asked in shock. Yes. And like a real ghost, he's trying to take over my body. I said seriously. But how did it happen? And why doesn't he just leave or ask you for help? The girl asked, looking at me with concern. As if that bastard is going to let the Omnitrix out of his nasty paws. It wasn't by chance that Zs'Scare ended up in the watch. Long ago, he accidentally learned about the Omnitrix from the files of one of Vilgax's drones, which crash-landed on his planet where he was Ecto-Lord High. And as you know, Zs'Scare decided to get such a powerful weapon that would help him realize his ambitions. And I must say, his plans were far from good. As a result, Zs'Scare went in search of the Watch, on this very probe, and went through the entire galaxy, moving into different creatures in order to get information, until he accidentally ran into the Watchmaker's assistant. During this time, she was on the planet Floor's Verdance and was scanning the local races to add them to the Omnitrix's database. As a result, Zs'Scare moved into exactly the alien that the assistant was scanning at that time, thereby adding his DNA to the Omnitrix. Discarding his old body, he transferred his consciousness into the strand of DNA that ended up in the database. Although it cost him a lot of effort, and in the end, Zs'Scare fell into hibernation, until, I said, until you find the watch. Hope continued for me. Absolutely right. And when I first used the form of Ecto-Neurite, it woke up and started working. At least he tried. I have mental protection, especially for such a case, but every day Zs'Scare is gaining strength and becoming stronger. Sooner or later, he will break through the protection and take over my body, and with it the Omnitrix. I said gloomily, though embellishing the situation a bit. I'm not sure if Zs'Scare has the strength to do it, with all my features. But, letting everything go by itself is not good either, so it's best to deal with it in advance. But, this is terrible, we need to urgently do something about it, Hope said fearfully, starting to panic. Calm down. Calm down. No need to be nervous. I already have a plan to get rid of this parasite. And just in this, I need your help. I grabbed her by the shoulders and tried to calm her down. What? Hope asked, looking at me in confusion. There was a spell in the Arcamida book of spells that should help me get rid of the ghost inside the clock. I said, taking out a sheet with the spell Botig Zabarito Carpes Nebagir Guys Liffen Intruders Yushin from the inventory. Looking at the paper carefully, Hope asked thoughtfully, is this an exorcism? Yes, this should banish Zs'Scare. Although, first I'll have to let him take over my body. That's exactly why I need you. I won't be able to drive out Zs'Scare myself when he controls my body. Besides, it will be necessary to restrain him somehow so that he does not escape. So what do you think? I asked, finally getting to the point. From what I can see, this is a very powerful exorcism, and from what you say, it is indeed capable of exorcising an Ecto-Neurite from you, but I'm not sure if that's a good idea. Hope said thoughtfully. What do you mean? I asked curiously. Zs'Scare will indeed be expelled from your body. He might even die, but that doesn't mean his DNA will be removed from your watch. It is possible that he will again be able to transfer his consciousness into his DNA in the watch and will return again, although not immediately. Hope said. And you're right. Somehow I didn't think about that. Do you have suggestions? I admitted my mistake. Actually, yes. I remember reading once about a spell that could help in this situation, Hope said fervently, after which she began to walk around the vault, apparently in search of the right book. After spending almost 10 minutes going through all the shelves, Hope finally exclaimed, yeah, there she is. And then she took from the bottom shelf a huge tome covered in dust, which was written in a language unknown to me. What language is this? I asked curiously, looking at the unfamiliar script while helping Hope open the book. Mother tongue of Legerdemain. If you want, I can teach you later, Hope said, turning over huge pages made of leather. Well, at least not human. True, I'm not sure. I would be very grateful, I said with a smile. It's always nice to learn something new, especially if it's the language of the magical dimension. Here, I found it, Hope said as she reached the middle of the book. What is this book anyway? I asked anyway. A collection of ancient rituals and spells written by a mad wizard who lived several hundred years ago. Although, frankly speaking, all the spells here are not very useful. You will be lucky if at least once in your life there will be a situation when this book will come in handy, Hope said, carefully rereading what was written in the book. Maybe you shouldn't use this book then? I asked warily, fearing what that psycho might have written here. Don't worry, although the author was mad, he was a master of his craft. It's just that spells and rituals from here are really rarely useful. But if they come in handy, then you can be sure of a 100% result. It's clear. If you say so, then so be it. So what is this spell that can help us? I asked. It's a ritual, after all. The ritual of submission. It just needs to be used on spirits, ghosts and so on. I think it will work on your Ecto-Neurite too, Hope said with an excited smile. Yes? And how does it work? I asked curiously. First, need to create a strong shackle, on which we'll need to engrave a rune array that will subdue the ghost. Then trap this very ghost and, with the help of a spell and a ritual circle, put shackles on him. As a result, the ghost will be attached to the magician and will be in his complete submission. Hope read aloud. This is a really good option. That way, I won't have to worry about Zs'Scare breaking free, and most importantly, I'll still have access to ectoneurite transformation. With enthusiasm, I said. Exactly. True, the ritual will have to be reworked a bit so that it does not subjugate, but rather seal the consciousness of Zs'Scare. So, he will forever remain in the watch and will not pose a threat. And like you said, you can use his powers. Hope said with a bright smile. Well done. With the same smile, I said, after which I kissed the girl on the cheek. Thank you. Hope said shyly, happily accepting my kiss. So, what do we need to perform the ritual? I asked, hugging the girl. I will be able to rework the ritual without any problems. There is nothing difficult in this, since it was originally allowed. It will only take a couple of hours. But with the shackles the problem. Ideally, they must be created from a durable material with good energy conductivity and capable of storing this same energy. I'm not sure if Uncle has such material in his bins. Hope said as she looked through Hex's chests. In fact, I have excellent material. I said, and then turned into Petrosapien. Creating shackles with tadenite chains was no problem for me. Although, it took some time, as I tried to make them as strong and dense as possible. When I finished, I handed the shackles to Hope, and then I became human again. Ideally, Hope said, inspecting the shackles, although she could hold them, as they weighed decently. What now? Here, it is necessary to draw these runes on the shackles themselves, while constantly supplying mana, Hope said, pointing her finger at the page with this very set of 108 runes. Okay, should I do it myself? I asked, picking up the shackles. Yes, since you are the one sealing Zs'Scare, it is necessary to use your energy. And while I redacted the ritual, Hope said, after which she picked up a piece of paper with a pen and began to draw something on it. Once again looking at the array of runes, I memorized it, after which I got to work. Although, at first I had to turn into a diamond head again and create a knife to cut out these same runes, otherwise I overdid something with the strength of the crystal. The whole job took me 2.5 hours. Fortunately, I have a steady hand and did not have to remake anything. I finished. I said, putting aside my tadenite knife. Okay, I did too. We go to the basement. There is just a room for rituals. Hope said and picked up some sheets of paper and a box from Hex's desk. And how do we restrict Zs'Scare? I don't think he'll just stand by and wait for you to subdue him. I asked, jingling shackles, which after my work had changed from turquoise to dark blue, the color of my magic. Almost forgot. It's good that you reminded me, Hope said, after which she opened one of the chests and took out an ordinary-looking white brick. Brick? From the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem. Holy place. This should deter any dark creatures, including your ghost, Hope said with a smile as she led me into the castle dungeon. The interior of the cellar was no different from the rest of the castle, so I did not see anything new. Leading me into a large round room, Hope took out several of her stone creatures from her magical purse, which immediately increased in size and received something similar to ordinary crayons in their hands, began to draw a ritual circle following the commands of their mistress. Conveniently, I said, looking at how the golems were working. Not that word. I love calling these babies. My mother taught me this, Hope said with a smile. In 10 minutes the circle was ready, after which it was the turn of the brick. Having received the sacred relic in his hands, one of the golems crushed it into powder, after which he poured a small circle into which I stood, following the instructions of the Charmcaster. That's it, you can start. Once Zs'Scare has full control, I will activate the ritual and shackle him, Hope said, looking at me seriously. Fine, but be prepared, it's going to be a disgusting sight, I said as I activated the Omnitrix. Third POV. Raising his hand with the Omnitrix to his chest, Lex opened the dial, turning it several times, reached the ghost freak. Taking a deep breath, Lex slapped the dial and at the same time opened all of his mental shields, allowing Zs'Scare to take over. After the usual second transformation, in place of Lex was the ghost freak, who looked the same as usual, but what was different was his behavior. Ha, ha, ha 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 ha. Finally, I got the upper hand. I broke through his defenses. And now the Omnitrix is mine. Zs'Scare laughed like a madman before he began to transform into his true form. First, the symbol of the Omnitrix disappeared from his chest. Then, sharp claws burst out of his hands, tearing his hide in the process. A dozen striped tentacles followed from its chest, and another, much longer and repulsive tail appeared from its ghostly tail. And then, using his claws, Zs'Scare tore the entire skin off his face, revealing his ugly upside-down head. Finally shedding all of his fake skin, which previously served as protection from the sun, Ecto-Newrite returned to his true form, while continuing to laugh. Lex was right, it was a disgusting sight. Also your voice, brr. The voice of Hope, who had been standing nearby all this time, was heard. What? Who are you? It doesn't matter though, I just needed a host. Zs'Scare hissed as he looked at Hope as he approached the girl menacingly. But before he could reach Hope, he was stopped by a barrier of golden light, which caused Ecto-Newrite great pain. Wah! It hurts. What is this? Zs'Scare yelled, flying away from the barrier, accidentally hitting the other side of the barrier with his back. You don't need to know that, freak. Goodbye. Percent and hashtag and $*caret and $caret and. Hope shouted and activated the ritual in legerdemain's language. The ritual circle that had been drawn earlier shone with pink light, and ribbons appeared that began to bind Zs'Scare and restrain him. What are you doing? Stop it. Don't. Please. Ecto-Newrite shouted in fear, finally turning to a plea. But Hope ignored him and only threw shackles at him, which in flight opened up on their own and clung to Zs'Scare, shackling his neck, waist, arms, and tail. At the same time, the ghost let out an even more deafening scream, after which a new transformation began. A new skin appeared again, though not gray, but bluish in color, covering all the ugliness of Zs'Scare. Long, sharp claws remained, as did an elongated tail, but the skin covered all this. Finally, the symbol of the Omnitrix appeared, emitting a bright light that momentarily blinded Hope. After the flash faded, the ghost freak's new look could finally be seen. What stood out the most were the shackles that serve as Zs'Scare's restraint, and the slightly more angular figure. Lex? Hope breathed, looking at the new ghost freak. Lifting his single eye to Hope, the ghost freak paused for a moment, then said in his eerie voice, "It's me." Everything worked. Lex reversed his transformation and became human again, catching Hope as she threw herself into his arms. Chapter 80. 79. Bermuda Triangle. Lex POV. Are you sure everything's all right? Once again, it seems to be the 6th time, Hope asked me. Once again I tell you, everything is fine. I am me again. Zs'Scare's mind is sealed and asleep, I'm sure of it. I said soothingly, taking Hope's hand. Now, I have told the full truth. As I regained control of my body and became a renewed ghost freak, I felt Zs'Scare's consciousness recede into the background and no longer show any signs of activity. It's still there, but now it's harmless. To be honest, I've always felt uncomfortable as the ghost freak form, as I felt like someone was breathing down my neck. Over time, this feeling intensified and soon escalated into Zs'Scare's attempts to break through my mental barriers. It was like someone was constantly scratching and pestering me. It didn't affect me much, but it was still very annoying. But, the ghost freak was too useful an alien not to use it due to a little discomfort. And now, after the ritual, all these strange sensations have disappeared. The only thing I feel is the very presence of Zs'Scare, but it is almost imperceptible and I can just forget about it and not worry about it. But now, it seems to me, the ghost freak himself has become stronger than he was before. Perhaps the whole point is that Zs'Scare managed to release his true form, and now the ghost freak has received all his power. I'm not sure if that's the case, but I'm better off. By the way, the ritual itself was rather strange for me. Allowing Zs'Scare to take over, I seemed to fade into the background and watch the single eye of the Ecto-Newrite happen. I have to say, it was a strange feeling. And by the way, it turned out that I could very well regain control if I tried very hard. So, in the end, there was no risk in this adventure. Okay, I'll believe you. But if something happens, let me know immediately. Hope said sternly, distracting me from my thoughts. Yes, ma'am. Saluting, I said with a smile. Don't clown. Hitting me on the shoulder, said the Charmcaster. Haha, okay, I said chuckling, hugging the girl, and then continued, so, what are your future plans? I'll sort out Uncle's collection, check all the ingredients, resources and treasures, and then study. I need to make up a lot. Also hugging me, with a satisfied smile, said Hope. Is that how? Well, good luck to you. I said, knowing full well how impatient she is now, because now no one will limit her thirst for knowledge. And you? Will you return to your family? A little sad, the girl asked. Yes. I've been gone for almost a day, they should be worried. Besides, we need to continue our journey. We were just invited to the Bermuda Triangle. A great opportunity to solve his mystery. With a smirk, I said. I understand. I will miss you very much. Breathing out, the girl said. Don't worry, we'll meet in just a couple of days. I'm sure you won't even notice my absence, especially when you're immersed in your books. I said, stroking my new wife on the head. Okay. Accepting the stroke with a satisfied smile, said Hope. Next time I come, I'll bring your mother's book, the Staff of Ages, and the Arcamida Book of Spells. And then we'll decide when you'll meet Grandpa, Gwen, and Ashley. I said encouragingly, although I began to worry about the upcoming acquaintance. Thank you, Hope said, leaning towards me for a kiss, which I gladly gave her. After spending almost 10 minutes saying goodbye, I decided to do one last thing. Hold. With it, we can keep in touch. If you need help or just want to chat, you can call, at any time. I said, handing Hope the smartphone. In fact, I made a set of smartphones specifically for my family after that gladiator story. I had a free moment, so I made high-tech phones that are in no way inferior to mine. The same indestructible, with an extranet connection and a huge memory bank. True, I completely forgot to give them. But, here it comes in handy. Although, then I have to do another one so as not to offend anyone. This is a phone? Hope asked, looking at my gift curiously. Yes. You're a smart girl, so I'm sure you can figure out how it works for yourself. It has my number on it. I said, at the same time looking at the time. It was already almost 11 a.m. I never had a phone. Hex was against any technology. Wanted too much to be authentic. Thanks a lot. Holding a smartphone to her chest, said, with a smile, Hope. Yes, that's his style. Well then, I have to go. I said, hugging her tightly. I really don't want to leave, but I have to. After standing like that for a few more minutes, I nevertheless let go of Hope and went to the exit. True, before I had gone a couple of steps, Hope again rushed to me and kissed me. Well, stop. I really have to go. I murmured as I kissed back. Good. Hope said as she moved away from me. Showing only a smile, I again went to the exit. I did not dare to use the telemat's teleportation. In a magic castle, you never know what will happen. Having left the castle without any problems, I took one last look at it and sighed heavily. All of this is difficult. All right, time to get down to business. Morgana, please return the Merlin to the hangar. I turned to my beautiful AI. I was met with only silence in response. Morgana. I yelled, trying to get an answer. And again only silence. Don't ignore me. I know you can hear me. I said wearily. Oh, you're talking to me? I thought you forgot about me. This whore is more important to you. Morgana said with great jealousy in her voice. Don't talk like that. Hope is a good girl. And don't act like that. You know perfectly well that you have a special place in my heart. I said tiredly, realizing that someone had a fit of jealousy. Then why do I still have no body? You promised a few months ago. I want to hug and kiss you too. I've been with you the longest. And already there are 3 bitches who get all your love and attention. First with anger, and then with resentment, Morgana said. I'll make you a body, but I can't make a simple robot. My wonderful artificial intelligence must have a perfect body. I said encouragingly. Really? I asked hopefully. Promise. I will create for you the body of a bio-android, which will be no different from a human one, and you will be able to feel all the delights of being a living being. Just wait until the end of the summer when I get all the resources I need. I promised. Okay, I'll believe you and wait. But next time you're having fun with your whores, at least turn off the cameras in your cabin. I hate to see you feel good with someone else when I can't even touch you. Morgana said, regaining her laughter. Although it is not clear why she herself did not turn off the cameras, because she can. But, we will consider this a manifestation of female logic. As you say, my love. I said as I watched the Merlin disappear into the clouds. I created AI, on my own head, and now I suffer. I don't even know how to approach the creation of her body. Now, it remains to deal with the Bermuda Triangle. I can't let my beloved family fall into a death trap, even if they can get out of it without any problems. It's better not to risk it again. In addition, this is another chance to get useful resources. Transforming into a chromastone, following the map from the Infinity Tattoo, I flew towards Florida. I had never used this alien before, so I figured why not. Crystal sapiens fly at subsonic speeds, so I'll be there pretty soon. Deciding that for the time being to contact my deputy, I took out my phone and called Gwen's number, since the clone should now have her phone. On a note, we need to make a few more phones, or communicators, especially for clones, so that we can always keep in touch. Where are you? I immediately asked. Already in Miami. We are just boarding the next plane that will take us to the Grand Smith's underwater resort. The clone replied. Good. I'll be back before you land. I said and hung up, after which I flew faster to the center of the Bermuda Triangle. The Bermuda Triangle is an area in the Sargasso Sea that is bordered by a triangle with peaks in Miami, Bermuda, and San Juan. For several centuries, mysterious disappearances of ships and aircraft, and other anomalous phenomena have been taking place on this territory. Many have tried to unravel the secret of the triangle, including my grandfather, but the truth is that some cyber squids are to blame for everything, which are most likely the defense system of a spaceship that sank in that place a long time ago. When Donovan Grandsmith, an old friend of Max's, decided to build his resort in the Bermuda Triangle, understandably to attract tourists, he originally planned to use the energy of volcanic vents as a power source, but nothing came of it. As a result, in search of a solution to this problem, Donovan found an energy source at the bottom of the triangle, which belonged to these very cyber squids, which the latter did not like very much, and pretty soon they will visit the resort for their property. And since the resort is located on the water, it cannot end in anything good. And since my family is the first guests of the hotel, we are all going to be in a shitty situation. Of course, for us this is not such a problem, but it will notably spoil the rest. And I wish my family all the best, so I will take care of everything in advance so that we can relax in such a unique place. With similar thoughts, I finally got to the approximate middle of the Bermuda Triangle and instantly plunged into the water, heading to the bottom. I didn't even change the transformation, because the chromastone can fly in the water and, with its help, I can light my way. And as for the air, you don't have to worry, because the infinity tattoo protects me, and I can safely be at the bottom of the ocean, even in the form of a human. After about 500 meters, I noticed the first signs of activity, and pretty soon a dozen squid-like robots appeared in front of me, approaching me menacingly. Since I needed their base, I turned into an upgrade, and while the robots did not understand anything, I absorbed one of them. Having gained access to the squid network, I immediately swam to the bottom, where the mothership should be. The rest of the squids ignored me, because for them I became their own. Having reached almost 3 kilometers of depth, I finally saw the ship that had lain here for centuries and caused many problems on the surface. The ship itself had an odd shape, more like a long snake, and was not in very good condition. He obviously crashed, after which he lay in the water for a long time, which clearly did not do him any good. Before I can get this snake out of here, I need to disable all the squid, and for this I need to take control of the ship. Thankfully, this is easy to do. Discarding the body of the cyber squid, I soaked into the starship itself. Oddly enough, despite the passage of time, it was still in working order, albeit in an emergency. It will not be able to take off, but there is still energy for work. Taking control of the ship, I ordered all the squids to return to base and turned off the security system that had been working all this time and caused the cyber squids to act. Now that no one will interfere with me, I can get the spaceship from here. Having completely disabled the ship, I turned into Ditto and created 100 clones, which, following my command, all turned into the Two Tails and created a common dome of mana that wrapped around the ship. I don't want to accidentally lose part of the ship, so it's safer that way. Holding onto the dome, we all moved on the count of 3 to Mars, to the old place where the gladiator ship used to be. Dispelling the clones, I transformed into the Sandman and created a dome of sand that covered the ship. Well, that's all, we're done with this. Now you can return to your family, otherwise I already missed them. I will deal with the snake after a tour of the resort, which should now be completely safe.